A wedding dress, a rainstorm, a text message that destroyed everything. When Nathan Cole's phone lit up at midnight, he never imagined those four words would change his life forever. Come pick me up, I wore the dress. 30 minutes later, he found Evelyn Hart standing alone on the steps of her family's crumbling mansion, America's most successful young CEO, soaked to the bone in $10,000 of silk and lace, her wedding reception still raging inside without her. What happened next wasn't love, it was survival. But before we get there, I need you to understand how we both ended up drowning. If you're watching from anywhere in the world, drop your city in the comments. I want to see how far this story travels. And hit that like button, because what comes next is going to sound impossible. The rain hit Briar Glen like it had a personal grudge. Nathan Cole gripped the steering wheel of his beat-up Ford F-150, windshield wipers hammering uselessly against the downpour while his phone buzzed again on the passenger seat. He'd already ignored it twice. Once during dinner with his daughter, once while tucking her into bed. The third time, he looked. Unknown. Number. Come pick me up. I wore the dress. His foot hit the brakes so hard the truck fishtailed, tires screaming across wet asphalt. The car behind him blared its horn as Nathan pulled onto the shoulder, hands shaking as he read the message again. It couldn't be her, except it absolutely was. He knew exactly one person getting married tonight. One person who'd been slowly unraveling for the past 6 months while trying to save something that was already dead. One person stubborn enough to text a near stranger in the middle of a catastrophe instead of calling the police, her family, or literally anyone else who made sense. Evelyn Hart. Nathan stared at the message, rain drumming against the roof like a countdown. His brain offered several reasonable responses. Wrong number. Call someone else. This isn't my problem. Instead, he typed, "Where are you?" The response came instantly. The estate. Hurry. Nathan glanced at the clock. 11:47 p.m. His daughter Mia was asleep at his sister's place. He had exactly 0 good reasons to drive 15 miles in a biblical thunderstorm to rescue a woman he barely knew from her own wedding. He put the truck in gear anyway. The Hart estate sat on 200 acres at the edge of Briar Glen, a sprawling Gothic mansion that had been rotting gracefully since the 1920s. Locals called it the White Elephant, beautiful, expensive, and completely impractical. The kind of place where money went to die slowly while everyone pretended not to notice. Nathan had only been there once before, 3 weeks ago, when Evelyn hired him to inspect the foundation of the East Wing. He'd given her the bad news over coffee in a kitchen that probably cost more than his entire house. The building was sinking, not dramatically, not dangerously, just expensively. How much to fix it? She'd asked. $150,000, conservatively. She'd laughed, not the polite kind, the kind that came from somewhere dark and exhausted. Of course it is. That's when he'd learned the truth everyone in town already whispered about. Evelyn Hart was broke, not poor. There's a difference. The kind of broke that came from inherited wealth bleeding out through 1,000 invisible cuts, while you smiled for the cameras and pretended the empire wasn't crumbling. The Hart family had built their fortune on hospitality. The estate's ballroom had hosted presidents. Its gardens had been featured in magazines. For 90 years, the Harts had been Briar Glen's untouchable dynasty. Then Evelyn's father died, and everything went to hell. She'd inherited the business at 26, too young, too inexperienced, too desperate to prove she could carry a legacy that weighed more than she did. 4 years later, she was hemorrhaging money, fighting off creditors, and apparently marrying some banking executive who'd offered to save her in exchange for access to the family trust. Nathan had heard about the engagement from his sister, who'd heard it from the woman who ran the flower shop, who'd probably heard it from Evelyn's assistant. Small-town gossip moved faster than the internet. "She's marrying Preston Whitmore," his sister had reported with the grim satisfaction of someone delivering tragic news. "You know, the investment guy from Boston. Apparently he's going to restructure the estate's finances." Translation, he was going to carve up the property and sell off the pieces. "Good for her," Nathan had said, meaning the opposite. "You don't sound happy." I'm not invited to have an opinion, but he'd had one anyway. The same one he'd had since meeting Evelyn Hart 3 weeks ago and watching her try to hold together something that should have been allowed to collapse with dignity. She's going to regret this. Now, pulling up the long gravel driveway to the estate, Nathan realized he'd been right. The mansion blazed with lights. Every window glowed gold against the storm, and he could see silhouettes moving inside. Guests, probably, still celebrating while the bride had apparently fled. Cars lined the circular drive, expensive sedans and SUVs that cost more than his annual salary. And there, standing alone at the top of the stone steps in a wedding dress that clung to her like a second skin, was Evelyn Hart. Nathan killed the engine and sat there for a moment, staring. She looked like a ghost. Hair plastered to her face, makeup running in dark streaks down her cheeks, barefoot on the wet stone. The dress, some elaborate thing with lace and beading that probably required 3 people to put on, hung off her shoulders like it was trying to drag her down. She wasn't crying. Somehow that made it worse. Nathan grabbed his jacket from the back seat and stepped into the rain. The cold hit him immediately, soaking through his shirt before he made it halfway up the steps. "Evelyn?" She looked at him. Not through him, not past him. Actually looked, like she was seeing him for the first time. "You came. You texted. I know, I just—" She wrapped her arms around herself, shivering. "I didn't think you actually would." Nathan shrugged off his jacket and held it out. "Put this on." "I'm already soaked." "So now you'll be soaked and slightly warmer. Take it." She did, fingers trembling as she pulled the heavy canvas around her shoulders. It swallowed her completely, sleeves hanging past her hands like a child playing dress-up. "What happened?" Nathan asked quietly. Evelyn laughed. Same sound as before. Dark, exhausted, empty. "I said no." "To what?" "Everything." She looked back at the glowing windows, music and voices drifting out into the storm. "Preston wanted me to sign over partial ownership of the estate, transfer 40% to him as a wedding gift. Said it was necessary for the loan restructuring. Said it was the only way to save the business. But I looked at the papers right before walking down the aisle, and I realized—" Her voice cracked. "He wasn't trying to save anything. He was buying his way into my family's legacy, and I was about to let him because I was too scared to fight anymore." Nathan watched her carefully. "So you ran?" "So I ran." She met his eyes. "In the dress, in front of 300 people. Just grabbed my phone and walked straight out the side door while everyone was waiting for me to make my entrance." Jesus. Preston's probably still standing at the altar wondering where I went. She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. Or maybe he's already in the study calculating how much this embarrassment is going to cost him. Thunder rolled across the valley, close enough to feel in Nathan's chest. "Come on," he said. "Let's get you out of here." "Where?" "Does it matter?" Evelyn looked at him for a long moment, rain streaming between them, the weight of her entire collapsed future hanging in the air. "No," she said finally. "I guess it doesn't." They were halfway down the driveway when Nathan's phone rang. He ignored it. It rang again. "You should answer that," Evelyn said quietly from the passenger seat, still wrapped in his jacket, wedding dress bunched awkwardly around her legs. Nathan glanced at the screen. His sister, of course. "Hey, Jenna, where the hell are you?" His sister's voice came through sharp and worried. "Mia woke up asking for you, and you're not answering your door." Nathan glanced at Evelyn. "I had to help someone. Emergency. I'll be back in an hour." "What kind of emergency?" "The kind I can't explain right now." Silence. Then, "Nathan Cole, if you're doing something stupid—" "I'm not. I promise. Just keep Mia there for a bit longer. Please." Another pause. "Fine. But you owe me an explanation." "I know." He hung up before she could argue. Evelyn was staring out the window, watching the estate disappear behind them. "Your daughter?" "Yeah." "How old?" 6. "She's lucky." Nathan frowned. "Why?" "Because you drove into a thunderstorm to help someone you barely know. That's the kind of dad who shows up." Evelyn's voice went quiet. "Mine didn't." "I'm sorry. Don't be." He was better at building empires than raising kids. She turned back to him. "Where are we going?" Good question. Nathan didn't have an answer. Taking her to his place felt wrong. Taking her to a hotel felt worse. She was still wearing a soaking wedding dress and his oversized jacket, barefoot and shivering, looking like someone who'd just walked away from a car crash. I don't know, he admitted. Where do you want to go? Anywhere that isn't here. So Nathan drove. They ended up at an all-night diner on the outskirts of town, the kind of place with cracked vinyl booths and coffee that tasted like burnt regret. The waitress, a woman in her 60s who'd probably seen everything, took one look at Evelyn's wedding dress and didn't ask a single question. Coffee? Please, Evelyn said. Make it 2, Nathan added. They sat across from each other in a corner booth, rain still hammering against the windows. Evelyn had stopped shivering, but she hadn't let go of his jacket, clutching it around her shoulders like armor. I'm sorry, she said finally. For what? Dragging you into this. You didn't sign up for... She gestured vaguely at herself. Whatever this is, Nathan shrugged. You needed help. I helped. Most people would have ignored that text. I'm not most people. Clearly. She wrapped her hands around her coffee mug, staring into the dark liquid like it might have answers. Can I ask you something? Sure. 3 weeks ago, when you were inspecting the foundation, you said something about how if I needed a husband to secure a loan, you'd volunteer. Nathan felt his face heat. I was joking. I know, but... Evelyn looked up, and for the first time since he'd picked her up, there was something other than exhaustion in her eyes, something desperate and calculating and a little bit insane. What if I wasn't? What? What if I took you up on that offer? Nathan set down his coffee very carefully. Evelyn, you just ran away from your wedding. You're not thinking clearly. I'm thinking perfectly clearly. She leaned forward, intensity radiating off her like heat. Preston was never going to save the estate. He was going to gut it and sell the pieces. But the bank loan I need? It requires proof of stable income and collateral. If I'm married to someone who isn't trying to steal from me, someone who actually has a legitimate career and assets, I'm a structural engineer who lives in a rental and drives a truck held together with duct tape. You own your own consulting firm. You're licensed and bonded. You have a credit score above 700, and you've never declared bankruptcy. She paused. I looked you up. When? 3 weeks ago, after you left. Nathan stared at her. Why? Because you were the first person in 6 months who didn't treat me like a charity case or a business opportunity. You just told me the truth about my building and didn't try to sell me something I couldn't afford. Evelyn's voice dropped. And because you made that stupid joke about marrying me and I couldn't stop thinking about it. The diner suddenly felt very small. This is crazy, Nathan said. I know. You're talking about marriage. Actual marriage. A practical one. Partnership. She was talking faster now, words tumbling over each other. We get married, we file jointly, we use the combined income and assets to secure the loan, we save the estate. Then when everything stabilizes, we quietly divorce. 6 months, maybe a year. Evelyn, I'll pay you, whatever you think is fair. 50,000, 100, name your price. I don't want your money. Then what do you want? The question hung between them like a live wire. Nathan thought about his daughter. About the college fund that never seemed to grow fast enough. About the business he'd built from nothing that always seemed one bad month away from collapse. About coming home every night to an empty house and pretending he didn't notice the silence. He thought about Evelyn Hart standing in the rain, choosing to destroy her own wedding rather than sell her soul for security. I want to know this isn't going to blow up in my face, he said finally. I have a daughter. I can't drag her into something that's going to end badly. It won't, I promise. You can't promise that. You're right. I can't. Evelyn held his gaze. But I can promise I won't screw you over. I can promise this is a business arrangement, nothing more, and I can promise that if you help me save my family's legacy, I will spend the rest of my life making sure you don't regret it. Nathan wanted to say no. Every rational part of his brain was screaming at him to walk away, take her back to the estate, let her figure this out with lawyers and accountants, and people who actually knew what they were doing. Instead, he said, if we do this, we do it right. No half measures. We tell people it's real. We live together. We make it look legitimate. Evelyn's eyes widened. You're serious? Are you? Yes. Then so am I. He leaned back, still not quite believing what he was agreeing to. But I have conditions. Name them. My daughter comes first, always. If this arrangement threatens her stability or safety in any way, it ends immediately. Agreed. We're honest with each other. No games, no manipulation. If something isn't working, we talk about it. Okay? And when this is over, when you don't need me anymore, we end it cleanly. No drama, no burning bridges. Evelyn nodded slowly. Anything else? Nathan thought for a moment. Yeah, one more thing. What? If we're going to do this, you need to take off that wedding dress, because I'm not marrying someone who's still wearing another man's ring. Evelyn looked down at her left hand, where a massive diamond still caught the diner's fluorescent light. She twisted it off without hesitation and set it on the table between them. Done. Nathan stared at the ring, at her, at the absolute insanity they were both apparently committed to. All right, he said, let's get married. Just a sec. The courthouse opened at 8 a.m. Nathan and Evelyn were there at 7:30. They'd spent the rest of the night in Nathan's truck parked outside a 24-hour Walmart, where Evelyn bought jeans, a sweater, and cheap sneakers with cash from Nathan's wallet. The wedding dress went into a dumpster behind the store. The ring stayed in Nathan's glove compartment, forgotten. Neither of them slept. They sat in the parking lot drinking bad coffee and working through logistics like they were planning a business merger instead of a marriage. Bank accounts, insurance, tax implications. How to explain this to Nathan's daughter without traumatizing her. We tell her the truth, Evelyn said. Age-appropriate version. That we're getting married to help each other. That I need somewhere to stay and you need... She paused. What do you need? Honestly? I don't know anymore. That makes two of us. By the time the courthouse clerk called them forward, Nathan felt like he was moving through a dream. Sign here. Initial here. Do you take this woman? Do you take this man? I do. I do. The whole thing took 11 minutes. When it was over, they stood on the courthouse steps, legally married, staring at each other like strangers who'd just made a terrible mistake. Well, Evelyn said, we did it. Yeah. Now what? Nathan's phone buzzed. His sister, probably demanding to know where he'd been all night. He silenced it. Now we tell people, he said, starting with my family, then yours. Evelyn paled. My stepbrother is going to lose his mind. The one who's been trying to force you to sell the estate? Vincent, yeah. He's going to see this as a direct attack. Good, Nathan said. Let him. Something shifted in Evelyn's expression. Not quite a smile. More like recognition. You really meant what you said last night, didn't you? About doing this right. I don't do things halfway. I'm starting to realize that. She held out her hand. Partners? Nathan shook it. Her grip was stronger than he expected. Partners. News of the marriage spread through Briar Glen like a wildfire in drought season. By noon, Nathan's phone had 17 missed calls. By 2 p.m., his sister showed up at his office ready to commit murder. Are you out of your mind? Jenna stood in the doorway of his small consulting office, arms crossed, face red. You got married? To Evelyn Hart? The woman who literally ran away from her own wedding yesterday? Nathan looked up from the structural plans he'd been pretending to review. Good afternoon to you too. Don't you dare make jokes right now. Jenna slammed the door and stalked forward. What the hell were you thinking? I was thinking she needed help. So you married her? Nathan, people get married because they're in love, not because someone needs a cosigner on a bank loan. It's more complicated than that. Then explain it to me, slowly, because right now I'm trying to figure out how to explain to your 6-year-old daughter that her father just married a complete stranger. Nathan set down his pen. She's not a stranger. You've known her for 3 weeks. I know enough. You know nothing, Jenna's voice cracked. Nathan, you're a good man, the best. But you have this thing where you see someone struggling and you throw yourself at the problem. You did it with Sarah when she got sick. You did it with Mia after Sarah died. And now you're doing it with some socialite who's drowning in debt. The mention of his late wife hit like a physical blow. Don't, Nathan said quietly. Don't bring Sarah into this. Why not? She's the reason you're doing this, isn't she? Jenna's eyes were wet. You couldn't save her, so now you're trying to save everyone else. Silence filled the office. Nathan stood slowly, shoving his hands in his pockets to keep them from shaking. Evelyn needed help, he said. I could help her. So I did. That's all this is. I don't believe you. I don't care. They stared at each other across the desk. Two people who'd survived the same childhood, the same poverty, the same desperate scramble to build something better. Jenna had been there when Sarah died. She'd held Mia when Nathan couldn't. She'd earned the right to question him, but she didn't get to stop him. I need you to trust me, Nathan said finally. Just this once. Trust that I know what I'm doing. Do you? No, but I'm doing it anyway. Jenna closed her eyes, shoulders sagging. You're going to get hurt. Maybe. And when this falls apart, I'm going to say I told you so. I expect nothing less. She opened her eyes, looking at him with something between frustration and fear. At least tell me you have a plan. We live together. Make it look real. Save the estate. Then we separate quietly when the dust settles. That's not a plan. That's a fantasy. It's what we've got. Jenna shook her head slowly. When do I meet her? Tonight. Dinner. 6 o'clock. And Mia? She'll be there too. Nathan, I know it's fast, but Evelyn's moving into the house this week and Mia needs to understand what's happening before she sees a stranger living in our space. Your space, Jenna corrected. It's still your space. Don't forget that. But Nathan was already forgetting. Evelyn arrived at Nathan's rental house at exactly 6 p.m., carrying a bottle of wine and wearing an expression that suggested she'd rather be anywhere else. Nathan opened the door and found her standing on his porch, looking impossibly out of place. Even in jeans and a simple blouse, she carried herself like someone used to commanding rooms. Old money had a posture. Evelyn had it. Hi, she said. Hi. Is this a terrible idea? Probably. Should we cancel? Too late. My sister's already inside judging the hell out of both of us. Evelyn smiled slightly. Great. I love being judged. Nathan stepped aside. Welcome to chaos. The house was small. 3 bedrooms, 1 bathroom, a kitchen that hadn't been updated since 1987. Nathan had rented it after Sarah died because it was cheap and close to Mia's school. He'd never bothered making it feel like home because home had died with his wife. Now he was bringing another woman into this space and pretending it meant something. Jenna sat at the kitchen table, arms crossed, radiating suspicion. Mia was on the floor nearby, coloring with an intensity that suggested she'd been coached to be on her best behavior. Evelyn, Jenna said flatly, lovely to meet you. You too. Evelyn set the wine on the counter. Thank you for having me. I didn't have much choice. Jenna, Nathan warned. What? I'm being honest. You wanted honest. Evelyn's smile didn't waver. I appreciate honesty. Good. Then let's be honest. Jenna leaned forward. What exactly are your intentions with my brother? To not ruin his life. That's a low bar. I'm aware. Mia looked up from her coloring, wide-eyed and curious. Are you Daddy's new friend? The room went silent. Evelyn knelt down slowly, meeting Mia at eye level. I'm Evelyn, and yes, I'm your dad's friend. Aunt Jenna says you got married. We did. Why? Nathan held his breath. Evelyn didn't flinch. Because sometimes adults need to help each other, and your dad is really good at helping people. He fixes buildings. I know. He's going to help fix mine. Mia considered this seriously. Is your building broken? Very broken. That's sad. It is, but your dad's going to make it better. Mia nodded, apparently satisfied with this explanation, and went back to her coloring. Crisis averted. Jenna, however, looked less convinced. Dinner was awkward. Jenna asked pointed questions about Evelyn's finances, her family, her plan for when this arrangement inevitably collapsed. Evelyn answered calmly, never defensive, treating it like a business negotiation. Nathan watched them circle each other like wolves deciding whether to fight or form a pack. By the time Jenna left, she'd thawed approximately 3 degrees. She's tougher than she looks, Jenna admitted at the door. I'll give her that. She's had to be. Yeah, well, don't screw this up. I'll try. Jenna hugged him hard. I mean it, Nate. Be careful. When she was gone, Nathan found Evelyn helping Mia clean up her coloring supplies, the two of them chatting quietly about favorite colors and whether purple was better than blue. Something in his chest tightened. "Hey, Mia," he said. "Time for bed." "But Evelyn's here." "She'll be here tomorrow, too." Mia's eyes went wide. "Really?" Nathan glanced at Evelyn, who nodded slightly. "Really," he said. "Evelyn's going to be staying with us for a while." "Like a sleepover?" "Something like that." Mia seemed thrilled by this development. She hugged Evelyn goodnight with the unselfconscious affection of a 6-year-old who hadn't yet learned to guard her heart, then ran upstairs singing something about purple houses. Evelyn stood slowly, looking shaken. "You okay?" Nathan asked. "She's sweet." "Yeah. I'm going to disappoint her, aren't I?" "Why would you think that?" "Because this isn't real, and kids can tell when adults are lying." Nathan stepped closer. "We're not lying. We're married. You're living here. That's real." "You know what I mean." "I do. But Mia doesn't need to know the complicated parts. She just needs to know that you're safe. That we're safe. That nothing bad is going to happen." Evelyn looked at him for a long moment. "Can you promise that?" "No." "Then why are we doing this?" It was the same question she'd asked in the diner. The same question Nathan had been asking himself since the moment he picked her up in that wedding dress. "Because the alternative is worse," he said finally. "Because you were drowning and I had a rope. Because sometimes you don't get good options, just less terrible ones." "That's bleak." "Welcome to reality." Evelyn smiled slightly. "You're not what I expected." "What did you expect?" "Someone easier to read." "Sorry to disappoint." "You didn't." She picked up her bag from the corner, everything she'd brought to start this strange new life. "Which room is mine?" Nathan led her upstairs to the guest bedroom. It was small, plain, a bed, a dresser, a window that looked out over the neighbor's fence. "It's not much," he said. "It's fine. Bathroom's across the hall. Towels are in the closet. If you need anything—" "Nathan!" He stopped. "Thank you," Evelyn said quietly, "for doing this. For not asking me to explain everything. For just showing up." "You texted." "Not everyone would have come." Nathan shrugged. "I'm not everyone." "No," Evelyn said. "You're really not." They stood there in the doorway, two people who'd signed their names on a legal document and promised to pretend until pretending became real. "Good night, Evelyn." "Good night, Nathan." He pulled the door closed and went downstairs, poured himself a drink he didn't really want, and sat in the dark kitchen wondering what the hell he'd just done. His phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. "You're going to regret this." Nathan didn't need to ask who it was. Vincent Hart had finally noticed his stepsister's new husband. The war was starting, and Nathan had just volunteered for the front lines. Vincent Hart showed up at Nathan's office 3 days later. Nathan was under a desk rewiring an outlet when he heard the door open. He didn't look up, just called out, "Be with you in a minute." "Take your time. I'm enjoying the view of my new brother-in-law groveling on the floor." Nathan froze, then carefully set down his screwdriver and rolled out from under the desk. Vincent stood in the doorway wearing a suit that probably cost more than Nathan's truck. Late 30s, perfectly groomed, with the kind of smile that made you want to check your wallet. He looked like every corporate predator Nathan had ever met, polished, confident, and utterly convinced of his own superiority. "Vincent Hart," he said, not offering his hand. "I believe we're family now." Nathan stood, brushing dust off his jeans. "Nathan Cole. And we're not family. We're in-laws. There's a difference." "Is there?" Vincent strolled into the office like he owned it, picking up a framed photo of Mia from Nathan's desk. "Cute kid. 6 years old, right? Must be hard raising her alone." "Put that down." "Relax. I'm just making conversation." Vincent set the photo back carefully. "You know, when Evelyn told me she'd gotten married, I thought she was joking. My stepsister, the woman who spent 4 years turning down every eligible bachelor in New England, suddenly marries some random contractor she's known for 3 weeks. It didn't make sense." "Structural engineer, not contractor." "Right, structural engineer." Vincent said it like he was humoring a child. "With a failing consulting business and a daughter to support. Must be tough making ends meet." Nathan crossed his arms. "What do you want, Vincent?" Just to understand. See, Evelyn's always been impulsive, but this? He gestured vaguely. This is next level desperate. So I'm trying to figure out what you're getting out of this arrangement. A wife. Bullshit. Nobody gets married that fast unless money's involved. So how much is she paying you? 50,000? 100? More? I'm not having this conversation. No, you're really going to want to hear this. Vincent's smile sharpened. Because whatever she's offering you, I'll double it. Walk away from this marriage, quietly, amicably, and I'll make sure you and your daughter are taken care of. Nathan stared at him. You're trying to bribe me to divorce your sister? Stepsister. And yes, consider it a business proposition. Here's my counteroffer. Get the hell out of my office. Vincent didn't move. You don't know what you're getting into. Evelyn's drowning in debt. The estate's worthless. That Christmas gala she's planning? It's a Hail Mary that's going to fail spectacularly. And when it does, she's going to drag you down with her. I'll take my chances. Will you? Because from where I'm standing, you've got a lot to lose. Your business, your reputation, your daughter's stability. Vincent leaned against the desk. I did some research on you, Nathan. You're a decent guy. Hardworking, honest. You don't deserve to get caught in the crossfire when Evelyn's empire collapses. You mean when you finish tearing it apart? I'm trying to save the family assets. There's a difference. By forcing her to sell everything her father built? By cutting our losses before we lose everything. Vincent's voice went cold. My stepfather was a sentimental fool who ran that estate into the ground. Evelyn inherited his delusions along with his debts. Someone has to make the hard choices. Nathan picked up his screwdriver, done with this conversation. The hard choice is supporting your family instead of scavenging the corpse. But I guess that's not profitable enough for you. You really think you're the hero in this story, don't you? Vincent laughed. That's adorable. But here's the truth. Evelyn's using you. The second she doesn't need you anymore, you'll be back in this shitty office wondering why you wasted 6 months playing house with someone who never saw you as anything more than a means to an end. I know exactly what this is. Do you? Because from where I'm standing, you look like a guy who's already falling for her. Vincent pushed off the desk. And when she breaks your heart, and she will, don't say I didn't warn you. He headed for the door, then paused. Oh, and Nathan? Tell Evelyn the trust board wants to see proof of your marriage, financial records, joint accounts, evidence you're actually living together. They'll be conducting an investigation within the month. Nathan's stomach dropped. Investigation? To verify the marriage is legitimate. We can't have people manipulating family assets through fraudulent relationships. Vincent's smile was poison. I'm sure you two have nothing to hide. The door closed behind him with a soft click. Nathan stood there, gripped tight on the screwdriver, trying to process what had just happened. Vincent wasn't bluffing. The trust investigation was real, which meant he and Evelyn had exactly 1 month to make this marriage look convincing enough to survive legal scrutiny. His phone rang. Evelyn. Your stepbrother just left my office, Nathan said, instead of hello. Silence. Then, what did he say? That the trust board is investigating our marriage, looking for proof it's legitimate. Shit. Yeah. I'm sorry. I should have warned you he'd come after you directly. Vincent doesn't do subtle. Nathan sat down heavily in his chair. He offered me money to divorce you. How much? Does it matter? I'm just curious what Vincent thinks my marriage is worth. Double whatever you're supposedly paying me, which, for the record, I told him didn't exist. Evelyn was quiet for a moment. Did you consider taking it? No. Why not? Because I said I'd help you. And I don't break promises. Nathan rubbed his face. But we need to talk strategy. If the trust is investigating, we need to make this look real. Actually real. I know, I've been thinking about that. And? I need to move into the estate. Nathan blinked. What? We can't keep living in your rental if we're trying to prove this marriage is legitimate. The trust board will want to see us actually living as a married couple in the family home. It's what they'd expect. Evelyn, the estate is falling apart. You said yourself the heating barely works and half the rooms are uninhabitable. I know, that's where you come in. Her voice steadied, shifting into planning mode. You're a structural engineer. We tell everyone you moved in to assess the building and start emergency repairs. It explains why we're there, gives you a legitimate reason to be working on the property, and makes the marriage look like a practical partnership instead of a desperate scam. Nathan thought about the crumbling mansion, the dangerous foundation, the endless list of problems he'd cataloged during that initial inspection. I can't fix that place in a month. I'm not asking you to fix it. I'm asking you to start. Make it look like progress is happening, like we're building something together. While living in a freezing death trap with my 6-year-old daughter, I'll make sure the rooms we use are safe and heated. I'll hire someone to deep clean the family wing. We'll make it work, Nathan. We have to. He wanted to argue, wanted to point out all the ways this plan was insane, but Vincent's threat hung over them like a guillotine, and they were out of good options. When? He asked finally. This weekend. I'll have the East Wing prepared. 3 bedrooms, 1 bathroom, kitchen access. Enough space for you and Mia to be comfortable. Comfortable is a strong word for a 90-year-old mansion in November. Better than the alternative? Which is? Vincent gets what he wants, and I lose everything my father built. Nathan closed his eyes. Fine. We move this weekend. Thank you. Don't thank me yet. We haven't survived the investigation. After they hung up, Nathan sat in the quiet office, surrounded by blueprints and half-finished projects, wondering at what point helping someone had turned into completely upending his life. His phone buzzed again. A text from Jenna. Heard Vincent paid you a visit. You okay? Nathan typed back. Define okay. That bad? Worse. We're moving to the estate this weekend. What? I'll explain later. You better. Nathan pocketed his phone and looked around the office he'd built from nothing after Sarah died. The place where he'd proven he could stand on his own. The place he was now risking for a woman he barely knew and a marriage that existed only on paper. He grabbed his jacket and locked up. Time to tell his daughter she was moving into a haunted mansion. That conversation went about as well as expected. But I like our house, Mia said, sitting at the kitchen table with her homework spread in front of her. My room is here, and my friends are close. Nathan knelt down beside her chair. I know, kiddo, but Evelyn needs our help. Her house is really big and old, and it needs a lot of fixing, so we're going to stay there for a while so I can work on it. How long is a while? I don't know yet. A few months, maybe? Mia's face crumpled. I don't want to. I know it's scary. Change is always scary. But Evelyn's house has a huge yard and a library with more books than you've ever seen, and there's even a ballroom where people used to have fancy parties. Like in princess movies? Exactly like princess movies. Mia considered this. Can I bring my stuffed animals? Every single one. And my nightlight? Of course. Will Evelyn be there? Yeah, she lives there. Is she nice? Nathan thought about Evelyn standing in the rain in a ruined wedding dress, about the way she'd answered Jenna's hostile questions with grace, about how she'd knelt down to talk to Mia like an actual person instead of a prop. Yeah, he said. She's nice. Okay. Mia went back to her homework. But if I don't like it, can we come home? Absolutely. It was a promise Nathan wasn't sure he could keep, but Mia seemed satisfied. The move happened on a gray Saturday morning that smelled like snow. Nathan loaded everything they owned into a borrowed truck. Clothes, furniture, Mia's toys, his tools. Not much, considering 3 years in the rental. He'd never bothered accumulating things after Sarah died. What was the point? Evelyn met them at the estate service entrance, wearing work clothes and looking nervous. The movers already brought up the beds and dressers, she said, leading them through a narrow hallway that smelled like dust and old wood. I had the cleaning crew focus on the East Wing bedrooms and bathroom. Everything else is still pretty rough, but at least you'll have functional living space. The East Wing was better than Nathan expected and worse than he'd hoped. The rooms were huge, high ceilings, tall windows, ornate molding, but everything felt cold and slightly damp. The furniture was old but solid. The bathroom had hot water but questionable plumbing. Mia's room had been clearly prepared with a child in mind. Someone had hung curtains with flowers, put fresh linens on the bed, even left a few books on the nightstand. You did this? Nathan asked Evelyn quietly. I wanted her to feel welcome. She's 6. She would have been happy with a working nightlight. I know, but Evelyn stopped, looking uncomfortable. I didn't have a great childhood in this house. I wanted hers to be different. Something in Nathan's chest squeezed. They spent the afternoon unpacking while Mia explored, her footsteps echoing through empty hallways as she investigated her new kingdom. Every so often, she'd run back to report discoveries. A secret closet, a broken chandelier, a window seat perfect for reading. By evening, Nathan's new room looked almost livable. Bed, dresser, a chair by the window. His tools lined up against one wall, everything he needed and nothing extra. Evelyn appeared in the doorway carrying clean towels. "Dinner's in an hour," she said. "I'm making pasta. Hope that's okay." "You cook?" "Occasionally, when I'm not drowning in paperwork." She hesitated. "How's Mia doing?" "Better than expected. The Princess Ballroom sold her." "I thought it might." Evelyn set the towels on his dresser. "Listen, I know this isn't ideal. Living here, pretending, all of it. But I want you to know I'm not taking this lightly. What you're doing for me. We're doing it together." "Still, you didn't have to say yes. Most people wouldn't have." Nathan leaned against the doorframe. "Most people aren't married to you." "Legally married. There's a difference." "Is there?" Evelyn looked at him for a long moment. "I don't know anymore." Before Nathan could respond, Mia came running down the hall, breathless and excited. Dad! There's a piano in the music room and Evelyn says I can play it if I'm careful." "That's very nice of Evelyn. Can I, please?" Nathan looked at Evelyn, who nodded. "Sure, kiddo. Just wash your hands first." Mia disappeared as quickly as she'd arrived. "There's a music room?" Nathan asked. "3 of them, actually. The estate used to host concerts." Evelyn smiled slightly. "Most of the instruments don't work anymore, but the grand piano in the East Gallery is still functional. I thought Mia might like it." "You're good with her." "I'm trying. Kids make me nervous." "You're doing better than you think." They stood there in the doorway, the weight of their arrangement settling around them like dust. Outside, night was falling over the estate, turning the windows dark. "I should check on dinner," Evelyn said finally. "Yeah. And I should make sure Mia doesn't destroy your piano." "It's her piano now. Everything here is." Nathan frowned. "What do you mean?" "I mean, if we're going to sell this as a real marriage, we need to stop treating this place like mine and start treating it like ours. You live here now. Mia lives here. This is your home." "Evelyn, I'm serious. The trust board is going to be looking for evidence we're actually partners. That means shared space, shared decisions, shared everything." She met his eyes. "Can you do that? Can you stop being a guest and start acting like you belong here?" Nathan thought about the years he'd spent in temporary spaces, never quite settling, never quite committing. After Sarah died, home had stopped meaning anything. It was just the place where he slept between shifts. Now Evelyn was asking him to claim this crumbling mansion as his own. "I'll try," he said. "That's all I'm asking." Dinner was simple: pasta with marinara, salad, bread. They ate at a massive dining table that could have seated 20, the 3 of them clustered at one end like survivors of a shipwreck. Mia talked non-stop about the piano, the library, the mysterious locked door on the 3rd floor that she absolutely needed to investigate. Evelyn listened with what looked like genuine interest, asking questions, laughing at the right moments. Nathan watched them and felt something dangerous taking root in his chest. This wasn't supposed to feel domestic, wasn't supposed to feel real. But sitting there in the warm kitchen with his daughter chattering and Evelyn smiling, it was getting harder to remember this was temporary. After dinner, Evelyn retreated to her office to work on gala planning, while Nathan helped Mia get ready for bed. The bedtime routine felt strange in this huge old house. The hallways too long, the ceilings too high, everything echoing. "Dad?" Mia asked as he tucked her in. "Are you and Evelyn going to stay married forever?" Nathan's hand stilled on the blanket. "Why do you ask?" "Because Aunt Jenna says you're not really in love. She said it to her friend on the phone. I heard her." "Damn it, Jenna." "Aunt Jenna doesn't know everything," Nathan said carefully. "But are you? In love?" "Mia, it's okay if you're not. Mommy used to say love takes time. Maybe you just need more time." Nathan's throat tightened. Sarah had said that, during the hard years when they were young and broke and fighting constantly, before Mia, before cancer, when love was the only thing holding them together. "Yeah," he managed. "Maybe we do." Mia seemed satisfied with this answer. She curled into her pillow, surrounded by stuffed animals, looking small and brave in this giant house. I like Evelyn, she said sleepily. She's sad, but she's trying not to be. Like you. When am I sad? All the time. You just hide it better. Nathan sat there for a moment, staring at his daughter, wondering when she'd gotten so perceptive. Good night, Mia. Night, Dad. He found Evelyn in her office, a room that had probably been a study once, now buried under file boxes and spreadsheets. She was at her desk, head in her hands, staring at numbers that clearly weren't adding up. How bad? Nathan asked from the doorway. Evelyn jumped, then laughed weakly. You scared me. Sorry, how bad are the finances? Honestly? We're going to need a miracle to pull off this gala. She gestured at the papers. The vendors want deposits I can't afford. The marketing budget is non-existent, and I'm trying to convince donors to attend an event at a property that's literally falling apart around them. Nathan walked over and looked at her planning documents. It was ambitious, a black-tie Christmas gala in the historic ballroom, complete with dinner, dancing, and live music. The kind of event that used to be the estate's signature. When is it? December 20th, 6 weeks from now. That's not much time. I know. But if I wait until next year, the bank will foreclose and it won't matter. She rubbed her eyes. I need to raise at least $300,000 to keep the estate operational, more if I want to actually start repairs. Nathan looked around the office, seeing it the way a structural engineer sees things. Cracks in the plaster, water stains on the ceiling, the subtle sag in the floor that suggested foundation problems below. The ballroom, he said. When's the last time you had it inspected? My father had it looked at maybe 5 years ago. Why? Because if you're planning to pack it with 300 people, I need to make sure it's not going to collapse. Evelyn paled. You think it might? I think this building is 90 years old and hasn't been properly maintained in at least a decade. I'd want to check before betting your entire financial future on a room full of wealthy people in evening gowns. Right, of course. She stood up quickly. Can you look at it tomorrow? I'll look at it tonight. Nathan, it's almost 10. Then I better get started. He grabbed his inspection gear from his room. Flashlight, measuring tape, moisture meter, notepad. Evelyn followed him down to the ballroom, turning on lights as they went. The ballroom was spectacular and heartbreaking. Soaring ceilings with painted murals, crystal chandeliers, a floor made of parquet that must have cost a fortune in the 1920s, and all of it slowly dying from neglect. Nathan got to work immediately, checking load-bearing walls, measuring floor deflection, looking for signs of structural compromise. Evelyn watched from the doorway, hugging herself against the cold. My parents got married in this room, she said quietly. Every major family event happened here. Weddings, anniversaries, charity galas. When I was little, I used to sneak down here at night and pretend I was dancing at my own wedding. Nathan looked up from where he was examining a crack in the baseboard. What changed? I grew up. Realized fairy tales don't pay the bills. Is that why you agreed to marry Preston? Because you stopped believing in fairy tales? I married Preston because I was out of options. I married you because I was out of time. She smiled sadly. Neither one was about love. No, Nathan agreed. They weren't. He went back to his inspection, working methodically through the space. The news wasn't good. The floor joists were sagging in several places. There was water damage along the east wall. The foundation beneath the ballroom showed signs of settling that could become dangerous under load. By midnight, Nathan had filled 6 pages with notes. Well? Evelyn asked when he finally stopped. The room's structurally sound enough for normal use, but if you're planning to fill it with 300 people, I need to do reinforcement work. Steel supports under the floor, shoring up the foundation, dealing with the water infiltration before it gets worse. How much will that cost? Nathan did rough math in his head. Materials alone, maybe $15,000, if I do the labor myself. Evelyn's face fell. I don't have $15,000. I know. Then what do we do? Nathan looked around the beautiful, dying ballroom, thought about Evelyn's desperate plan, about Mia sleeping upstairs in a house that might disappear in 6 weeks, about the promise he'd made to help. I'll cover it, he said. What? No, Nathan, I can't ask you to... You're not asking, I'm offering. That's your savings, your emergency fund. Yeah, and this is an emergency. Evelyn stared at him. Why would you do that? Because we're in this together. You said it yourself, partners. Partners don't bankrupt themselves for each other. Real ones do. They stood there in the cold ballroom, the chandeliers casting strange shadows around them. Nathan could see Evelyn trying to process what he'd just offered, the magnitude of it, the risk. I'll pay you back, she said finally. Every cent, with interest. I don't want interest. Then what do you want? It was the same question she'd asked before, and Nathan still didn't have a good answer. I want this to work, he said finally. I want you to save this place. I want Mia to have a stable home. He stopped, not sure how to finish that sentence. Evelyn took a step closer. You want what? I want to stop failing people. The words came out before he could stop them, raw and honest and more revealing than he'd intended. Evelyn's expression softened. You haven't failed anyone. Tell that to my wife. Nathan, I'm going to start the reinforcement work tomorrow. The sooner we get it done, the safer the ballroom will be. He picked up his gear, done with this conversation. Get some sleep. You look exhausted. He was halfway to the door when Evelyn spoke. Thank you. Nathan didn't turn around. For what? For showing up, for caring about this place even though you don't have to, for being the kind of person who drives into a thunderstorm when someone sends a desperate text. You already thanked me for that. I know, but I don't think you heard me the first time. Nathan stood there for a moment, back still turned, feeling the weight of everything unsaid between them. Good night, Evelyn. Good night. He left her alone in the ballroom, surrounded by ghosts of parties long past, and the impossible task of bringing them back to life. The next morning, Nathan started work at dawn. He moved through the estate like a man possessed, taking measurements, ordering materials, planning the reinforcement strategy. The project was massive, weeks of work compressed into a timeline that made no sense. But he'd given his word. By the end of the first week, Nathan had barely slept. He worked his regular consulting jobs during the day, then spent nights in the ballroom installing steel beams and reinforcing floor joists. The physical labor felt good, concrete, something he could control when everything else was chaos. Evelyn brought him coffee around midnight on the 6th night, finding him under the ballroom floor covered in dust and sweat. You're going to kill yourself, she said. I'm fine. You're running on 3 hours of sleep and bad coffee. That's not fine. Nathan crawled out from under the floor, accepting the fresh cup she offered. I'm almost done with this section. Then I can start on the foundation reinforcement. At what cost? Your health? Your regular job? My regular jobs are fine. Are they? Because Jenna called me today asking if you were okay, said you missed a client meeting. Nathan winced. He had missed that meeting, completely forgot about it while he was elbow deep in structural repairs. I'll make it up. That's not the point. Evelyn sat down on the floor beside him, her back against the wall. I didn't ask you to destroy yourself for this. You didn't ask. I volunteered. Why? Because someone has to care about whether this building stands or falls. And right now, that someone is me. Evelyn was quiet for a long moment. My father used to say the same thing, that someone had to care. That's why he never sold. Why he kept pouring money into this place even when it didn't make sense. Was he right? I don't know. He died before I could figure that out. She looked around the ballroom, at Nathan's tools scattered everywhere, at the exposed floor joists, at the scaffolding and steel beams. Sometimes I think this place is cursed, that everyone who loves it ends up losing themselves trying to save it. Are you losing yourself? Every day. Nathan set down his coffee. Then why keep fighting? Because it's all I have. This place, this legacy. If I let it go, what's left? Who am I without the Hart estate? You're Evelyn. That's enough. She laughed softly. Is it? Because from where I'm sitting, I'm just the woman who ran from her wedding and dragged a stranger into her mess. You didn't drag me. I chose this. Why? And don't say because we're partners. There's more to it than that. Nathan looked at her, really looked. At the exhaustion in her eyes, the way she held herself like she was barely keeping it together, the vulnerability she tried so hard to hide. Because you reminded me what it feels like to care about something bigger than survival, he said finally. I've spent 3 years going through motions. Work, Mia, sleep, repeat. This, he gestured at the ballroom. This is the first time since Sarah died that I've felt like I'm building something instead of just existing. Evelyn's eyes were bright. That's the saddest thing I've ever heard. Yeah, probably. They sat there in this quiet ballroom, two people trying to resurrect something that maybe should have been allowed to die with dignity. Vincent's hiring an investigator, Evelyn said eventually, to look into our marriage. Into you. Nathan wasn't surprised. When? Next week, probably. He's trying to prove fraud before the trust board meeting. Will he find anything? Depends what he's looking for. We're living together. You're working on the property. We filed jointly. On paper, it looks legitimate. But anyone who looks closely will see we're strangers. Separate bedrooms, no physical affection, no history together. She turned to face him. We need to fix that. How? We need to be seen together, in public, acting like a married couple actually in love. Nathan's stomach tightened. Evelyn, I know it's awkward, but if Vincent's investigator interviews people in town, and everyone says we never touch, never kiss, never look at each other like we're anything more than business partners, we're done. She was right. Nathan knew she was right, but the idea of performing intimacy with Evelyn felt like crossing a line they couldn't uncross. What did you have in mind? He asked carefully. Dinner, tomorrow night, at Rossi's. The Italian place on Main Street? Everyone in Briar Glen eats there. We go, we have dinner, we act like newlyweds who can't keep their hands off each other. By Monday morning, the whole town will know we're serious. And Vincent's investigator will hear about it. Exactly. Nathan stood, offering her his hand. She took it, letting him pull her up. They stood close in the empty ballroom, hands still touching. Okay, Nathan said. Dinner at Rossi's, we'll give them a show. Thank you. Stop thanking me. I can't. You keep doing things worth thanking. She was still holding his hand. Nathan realized they were standing closer than necessary, close enough that he could see the flecks of gold in her eyes, close enough to smell her shampoo. He dropped her hand and stepped back. I should get back to work. Nathan, I'll see you in the morning. He walked away before she could say whatever was hanging in the air between them, before he could do something stupid like admit that holding her hand had felt dangerously right. The next evening, Nathan stood in his bedroom trying to remember how to tie a tie. He owned exactly two. One for weddings, one for funerals. Both felt too formal for dinner, but showing up at Rossi's in his work clothes seemed wrong. You look nice. He turned to find Evelyn in the doorway wearing a blue dress that made his brain temporarily stop functioning. Thanks. You too. You ready for this? No. You? Not even a little. She stepped into the room. But we're doing it anyway. Seems to be our pattern, Evelyn smiled, then walked over and fixed his tie with practiced efficiency. Her hands moved quickly, adjusting the knot until it sat properly. There, she said, not stepping back. Perfect. They stood there, her hands still on his chest, both of them pretending this was normal. We should go, Nathan said. Yeah. Neither of them moved. Then Mia's voice called from downstairs. Aunt Jenna's here! The spell broke. Evelyn stepped back. Nathan grabbed his jacket. They headed downstairs like two people preparing for battle instead of dinner. Jenna was waiting in the foyer, looking between them with knowing eyes. You two look like you're about to rob a bank. Dinner, Nathan said. We're going to dinner. Uh-huh. And I'm babysitting because we need to be seen together, Evelyn said calmly. Vincent's investigating our marriage. We're providing evidence it's real. Jenna's expression hardened. That bastard! Language, Nathan warned, glancing at Mia. She's heard worse, haven't you, Mia? Aunt Jenna says bad words when she thinks I'm not listening, Mia reported cheerfully. Great! Wonderful parenting all around. Nathan kissed his daughter's forehead. Be good for your aunt. We'll be back before bedtime. Have fun on your date. It's not a... He stopped, looked at Evelyn. Yeah, we'll try. Rossi's was packed, which was exactly what they needed. Every table full, people waiting at the bar, the kind of Friday night crowd that would notice and report everything. The hostess seated them, at a prominent table near the window, perfect visibility for anyone walking past or already dining. "Wine?" Nathan asked, scanning the menu. "I probably shouldn't. Need to keep a clear head. This is supposed to look like a date. People on dates drink wine." "Fine. Red." They ordered. Italian red for her, whiskey for him. When the drinks came, Nathan raised his glass. To convincing performances? Evelyn clinked her glass against his. To not getting caught. The dinner started stiffly. They talked about safe subjects, the estate, the gala planning, Mia's adjustment to the new house. Conversation that could have been between colleagues or roommates. Then Nathan noticed people watching. Vincent's investigator might not be here yet, but the town gossip mill absolutely was. He recognized at least 3 of Evelyn's former society friends at nearby tables. They were being studied like specimens under glass. "We need to sell this better," he said quietly. "How?" Nathan reached across the table and took her hand. Evelyn stiffened slightly, then relaxed. "Tell me something real," he said. "Something nobody knows." "Why?" "Because that's what people in love do. They talk. They listen. They actually care about the answers." Evelyn looked down at their joined hands. "I don't know how to do this." "Do what?" "Let someone in. Everyone I've ever trusted either died or betrayed me. It's easier to keep walls up. I'm not asking you to tear them down, just open a window." She was quiet for a long moment. Then, "I used to hide in the ballroom when my father and Vincent's mother would fight. They screamed at each other constantly those last few years, mostly about money, about the estate, about me." Her voice went soft. "I'd sit under the piano and pretend I was somewhere else, someone else." Nathan squeezed her hand. "I used to do the same thing, different reasons. My dad drank. When he got mean, I'd take Jenna, and we'd hide in the basement until he passed out. I didn't know that. Not many people do. Sarah knew. She's the only person I ever told the whole story. And now me. And now you." They looked at each other across the table, both suddenly aware they'd crossed into dangerous territory. This wasn't performing anymore. This was real. Their food arrived, breaking the moment. They ate slowly, conversation flowing easier now. Evelyn told him about growing up in the estate's shadow, always feeling like she was disappointing everyone. Nathan talked about building his business from nothing, about the terror of being a single father. Somewhere between the main course and dessert, Nathan realized he was enjoying himself. Actually enjoying spending time with Evelyn, not because he had to, because he wanted to. When they stepped outside after dinner, the temperature had dropped and light snow was falling. Evelyn shivered in her thin coat. Nathan pulled her close without thinking, wrapping his arm around her shoulders. She fit against him perfectly. "There are people watching," she said quietly. "I know. We should probably—" Nathan kissed her. It was supposed to be for show, a performance for Vincent's investigator and the town gossips. But the moment his lips met hers, performance became secondary to something far more dangerous. Evelyn made a soft sound of surprise, then kissed him back. Her hands came up to his chest, fingers curling into his jacket. Nathan's arm tightened around her waist, pulling her closer. The snow fell around them, the streetlights created halos, and for maybe 10 seconds, Nathan forgot this was fake. When they pulled apart, both breathing hard, Evelyn looked stunned. "That was for the audience," Nathan said quickly. "Just for the audience." "Right, of course, the audience." They stood there, neither quite willing to let go, snow collecting in Evelyn's hair. "We should get back," Nathan said finally. "Yeah." But they didn't move. Not yet. Not quite ready to return to reality where they were just 2 people pretending to be something they weren't. Except Nathan was starting to suspect they weren't pretending anymore. And that scared him more than anything. The drive back to the estate was silent. Nathan kept his eyes on the road, hands gripped tight on the steering wheel, trying not to think about how Evelyn had tasted like wine and something sweeter. Trying not to replay the way she'd responded when he kissed her, like she'd been waiting for it without realizing. Evelyn sat in the passenger seat, staring out at the snow, saying nothing. They were both pretending it hadn't meant anything, both failing spectacularly. When they pulled up to the estate, Nathan killed the engine, but neither of them moved to get out. "That went well," Evelyn said finally. "The dinner. People definitely noticed." "Yeah. Vincent's investigator will hear about it by Monday." "Probably." More silence. The snow was coming down harder now, coating the windshield in white. Nathan, we should get inside. Jenna's probably wondering where we are. He was out of the truck before she could finish whatever she'd been about to say. Coward move, but necessary. Because if they talked about that kiss right now, Nathan wasn't sure he could keep lying to both of them about what it meant. Inside, they found Jenna reading on the couch while Mia slept, curled up beside her, wrapped in a blanket. How'd it go? Jenna asked, looking up. Fine, Nathan said. At the same time, Evelyn said, Good. Jenna's eyes narrowed. Uh-huh. You two look like you just survived a car accident. We're tired, Evelyn said. It's been a long week. Right, long week. Jenna stood carefully, not waking Mia. Well, your daughter was an angel. We made cookies, played dress-up in what I'm pretty sure was your grandmother's closet, and she taught me a song about frogs. So, all in all, successful evening. Nathan managed to smile. Thanks for staying. Yeah, well, someone has to make sure you don't do anything stupid. She looked between them again. Although I'm starting to think that ship has sailed. Jenna, I'm going home. Call me tomorrow. We need to talk. She grabbed her coat and headed for the door, pausing to look back at Evelyn. And you? Take care of him. He's terrible at taking care of himself. I'm standing right here, Nathan said. I know. That's why I'm telling her instead of you. You never listen. The door closed behind her with a soft click. Nathan picked up Mia carefully, her small body warm and heavy with sleep. She mumbled something about princesses and buried her face against his shoulder. I'll get her to bed, he said quietly. Evelyn nodded. Good night. Yeah, night. He carried Mia upstairs, the familiar weight of her grounding him. This was real. This mattered. Everything else, the kiss, the confused feelings, the dangerous blurring of lines, that could wait. Had to wait. After tucking Mia in, Nathan stood in his own room staring at his reflection in the darkened window. He could still feel Evelyn's hands on his chest, still taste her on his lips, still hear the small sound she'd made when he'd pulled her closer. His phone buzzed. A text from Evelyn. We need to talk about what happened. Nathan stared at the message, typed and deleted 3 different responses, finally settled on, tomorrow. I'm exhausted. Okay, tomorrow. He set the phone down and lay back on the bed, still fully dressed, staring at the ceiling of a room that didn't feel like his in a house that definitely wasn't home. Except it was starting to feel that way. And that was the problem. Morning came too early and too bright. Nathan woke to find 3 missed calls from clients, a text from Jenna demanding he call her immediately, and the smell of coffee drifting up from the kitchen. He dragged himself out of bed, pulled on clean clothes, and headed downstairs with all the enthusiasm of a man walking to his execution. Evelyn was at the kitchen table, surrounded by paperwork, hair pulled back, reading glasses perched on her nose. She looked up when he entered. Coffee's fresh, she said. Thanks. He poured himself a cup and sat down across from her, the awkwardness from last night settling over them like fog. About yesterday, Evelyn started. We don't have to dissect it. It was for show. We sold it. Mission accomplished. Right, for show. She set down her pen. Except it didn't feel like show. Nathan's stomach tightened. Evelyn, I'm not trying to make this weird. I just think we should acknowledge that something shifted. Because if we don't talk about it, it's going to get worse. Worse how? Worse as in we start avoiding each other. Or worse as in we do something even more stupid than kissing in public. Nathan took a long drink of coffee, burning his tongue. What do you want me to say? That I felt something? Fine. I felt something. But that doesn't change anything. We're still temporary. This is still an arrangement. Is it? Because the investigator's going to interview us next week, separately. And if we can't even talk to each other about a kiss without falling apart, how are we supposed to convince a stranger our marriage is real? She had a point. Nathan hated that she had a point. So what do you suggest? He asked. Honesty. At least between us. Evelyn leaned forward. We stop pretending every touch is just performance. We acknowledge that living together, raising Mia together, working on this place together, it's creating something neither of us planned for. Which is what exactly? I don't know. But I think we need to figure it out before the trust board meeting, because if we're lying to each other, we're definitely going to slip up lying to them. Nathan rubbed his face. She was right. About all of it. The kiss had changed things. Pulled back a curtain on feelings he'd been successfully ignoring. Okay, he said finally. Honesty. But I need you to understand something first. What? I lost my wife 3 years ago. Spent 2 years drowning before I finally learned how to function again. I don't do relationships. I don't do complicated. And I especially don't do falling for people who are going to leave. Evelyn's expression softened. I'm not Sarah. I know. That's what scares me. Nathan met her eyes. Because Sarah and I had years to build what we had. You and I have had weeks, and somehow it already feels bigger than it should, Evelyn finished quietly. Yeah. They sat there in the morning light, coffee cooling between them, years of defensive walls crumbling into honesty neither of them was ready for. So what now? Evelyn asked. Now we prepare for the investigator. We get our story straight. We make sure Mia's comfortable if they want to talk to her. And we stop lying to ourselves about what this is becoming. Which is? Complicated, messy, real. Evelyn smiled slightly. I can work with that. Good, because Vincent's going to throw everything he has at us. We need to be ready. As if summoned by his name, Nathan's phone rang. Unknown number. He answered. Nathan Cole. Mr. Cole, this is Detective Michael Harrison. I've been retained by Vincent Hart to conduct an investigation into your recent marriage to Evelyn Hart. I'd like to schedule a time to speak with you this week. Nathan's jaw clenched. What kind of investigation? Standard verification. The family trust needs to ensure all relationships affecting estate assets are legitimate. I'm sure you understand. When? Tomorrow, if possible. 2 p.m. at my office. I'll text you the address. Fine, I'll be there. Excellent. And Mr. Cole? Please don't discuss this conversation with your wife. I'll be speaking with her separately. The line went dead. Nathan set down his phone slowly. The investigator? Evelyn guessed. Yeah, tomorrow at 2. He specifically said not to tell you. Of course he did. Vincent probably told him to try to catch us in conflicting stories. She stood, pacing the kitchen. What are you going to say? The truth. That we got married quickly. That it's unconventional. But that it's real. Is it? Nathan looked at her. After last night? Yeah, I think it might be. The next 36 hours were tense. Nathan went through the motions, worked on the ballroom reinforcements, handled client calls, spent time with Mia, but his mind kept circling back to the upcoming interview. What would the investigator ask? What would Evelyn say? How far could they push the truth before it became a lie? Evelyn was equally distracted. She barely touched dinner the night before the interview. Kept going over paperwork like the answers might be hidden in the financial statements. You should sleep, Nathan said around midnight, finding her still in her office. Can't. Too wired. Same. She looked up at him, exhausted and scared. What if we mess this up? We won't. You don't know that. No, but I know we're in this together, and that counts for something. Evelyn walked over to him, stood close enough that he could see the fine lines around her eyes, the way she bit her lower lip when she was anxious. Thank you, she said quietly, for not running. Most people would have by now. I'm not most people. I'm starting to realize that. She kissed him. Not for show this time. Not for investigators or gossip or family trust boards. Just because she wanted to. Nathan kissed her back, hands coming up to frame her face, and for a moment everything else disappeared. The investigation, the estate, the complications. None of it mattered as much as the feel of her against him. When they pulled apart, both breathing hard, Evelyn rested her forehead against his chest. We're terrible at keeping this professional, she whispered. Yeah, we really are. I don't want to stop. Me neither. They stood there holding each other, two people who'd promised themselves this was temporary, discovering it was anything but. Get some sleep, Nathan said finally. Tomorrow's going to be hell. What are you going to do? Probably lie awake worrying. It's my specialty. Evelyn smiled against his chest. Mine too. Then at least we'll be suffering together. She pulled back, looked up at him. Nathan? Yeah? Whatever happens tomorrow, with the investigator, with Vincent, with all of it, I want you to know I don't regret this. Any of it. Even the part where you married a stranger? Especially that part. Nathan kissed her forehead. Go to bed, Evelyn. You too. But neither of them slept much. Detective Harrison's office was in a bland building downtown, the kind of place that screamed private investigation without being obvious about it. Nathan arrived 5 minutes early, palms sweating despite the cold. Harrison was exactly what Nathan expected. Mid-50s, gray hair, the patient expression of someone who'd heard every lie ever told. He gestured to a chair across from his desk. Mr. Cole, thank you for coming. Not like I had a choice. Everyone has choices. Harrison opened a file folder. Let's start simple. How did you meet Evelyn Hart? She hired me to inspect the estate. Foundation issues in the East Wing. When was this? Late October, maybe 3 weeks before we got married. Fast timeline. Yeah, it was. Harrison made a note. Walk me through the decision to marry. What prompted it? Nathan had rehearsed this. Kept it close to the truth. Evelyn was in a bad situation, engaged to someone who was using her. She needed help. I offered. Out of the goodness of your heart. Out of recognition. I know what it's like to be backed into a corner with no good options. She reminded me of myself when my wife was sick. Desperate. Alone. Fighting for something that mattered. Your late wife, Sarah Cole, died of cancer 3 years ago. Nathan's jaw tightened. You've done your homework. It's my job. Harrison's expression didn't change. Some might say you have a pattern, trying to save people you can't actually save. Some might say that. They'd be wrong. Would they? Because from where I'm sitting, you married a woman you barely knew who's drowning in debt. That sounds like someone trying to rescue a sinking ship. Or it sounds like someone helping their wife save her family legacy. Is that what she is? Your wife? Or is she a client who's paying you to play the part? Nathan leaned forward. Evelyn's not paying me anything. This is real. Then why separate bedrooms? Because we're not idiots. We got married fast, we're taking the physical relationship slow. Is that a crime? No, just unusual for newlyweds. Everything about us is unusual. That doesn't make it fake. Harrison made another note. Let's talk about your finances. You've put approximately $30,000 of your own money into estate repairs. That's a significant investment for someone who's supposedly just helping out. Nathan hadn't expected him to know that number. I'm a structural engineer. The property needed immediate work. I did it. Using your personal savings? Yes. Why? Because it needed to be done and Evelyn couldn't afford it. So you bankrupted yourself for a woman you'd known less than a month. I didn't bankrupt myself. I made an investment in my wife's property, which you'll profit from when she sells. She's not selling. How do you know? Maybe that's the end game. Fix up the estate, flip it, split the profits. Nathan stood up. We're done here. Sit down, Mr. Cole. No. You're not investigating. You're fishing, trying to manufacture a story that fits Vincent's narrative. But here's the truth. I married Evelyn because she needed help, and I could provide it. Yeah, it happened fast. Yeah, it's unconventional. But it's real. And if you or Vincent or anyone else wants to prove otherwise, you're going to have to do better than asking leading questions about bedroom arrangements. Harrison studied him for a long moment. You really believe that, don't you? That this is real? I know it is. Even though she's going to leave you the second the estate is safe? Even though this whole arrangement has an expiration date built in? The words hit harder than Nathan wanted to admit. Interview's over, he said quietly. If you want anything else from me, go through my lawyer. You don't have a lawyer. Then I guess you're out of luck. Nathan walked out before Harrison could respond. His hands were shaking. The investigator had gotten under his skin, found the exact fear Nathan had been trying to ignore, that Evelyn would leave the moment she didn't need him anymore. He sat in his truck for 10 minutes, trying to steady his breathing, before his phone rang. Evelyn. Hey, he answered. How'd it go? Fine. He asked a lot of questions. I told him the truth. What kind of questions? About why we got married, about the money I've put into repairs, about whether we're actually together or just playing a part. Silence on the other end. Evelyn? He asked me the same things 2 hours ago. Nathan's stomach dropped. He said not to tell you he was interviewing me. He told me the same thing, said he wanted our stories separate. And? And I told him the truth, that we got married fast, that it's complicated, that it's real. Did he believe you? I don't know. He kept asking about our relationship timeline, kept implying I was using you. He said I had a savior complex, that I'm trying to rescue you because I couldn't save Sarah. Evelyn's voice went soft. Do you think that's true? A week ago, I would have said no. Now, Nathan stopped. I don't know anymore. Maybe I am trying to save you, or maybe I'm just trying not to be alone. Those aren't mutually exclusive. No, but they're not great foundations for a marriage either. Nathan, I need to go. I'll see you tonight. He hung up before she could respond, started the truck, drove aimlessly for an hour before finally heading back to the estate. When he arrived, he found Mia in the ballroom watching him work earlier that day, now sitting on the floor with her coloring book spread around her. Hi, Daddy. Hey, kiddo, where's Evelyn? In her office. She looks sad. Did something bad happen? Nathan knelt down beside his daughter. No, sweetheart, just grown-up stuff. Is it about you and Evelyn being married? Sort of. Mia considered this seriously. Do you love her? The question caught Nathan completely off guard. Why do you ask? Because that's what married people do. They love each other. That's what Mommy used to say. Nathan's throat tightened. Mommy was right. So do you? Love Evelyn? Nathan looked at his daughter, 6 years old and too perceptive for her own good, and couldn't lie. I'm starting to, he admitted quietly. Is that okay? Mia smiled. Yeah, I think Mommy would like her. Evelyn's nice, and she's teaching me piano. She is? Every afternoon, she says I'm getting really good. Nathan hadn't known that. Hadn't known Evelyn was spending time with Mia beyond the basics. The realization hit him hard, that while he'd been working himself to death in the ballroom, Evelyn had been quietly building a relationship with his daughter. I'm glad you like her, Nathan said. I do. Are you going to stay married to her, even after you fix the house? I don't know, Mia. It's complicated. Adults always say that when they're scared. Nathan stared at his daughter. Who taught you that? Evelyn. She said sometimes grown-ups pretend things are complicated when they're really just scared of getting hurt. Smart kid. Smarter stepmother. Nathan stood. Keep coloring, okay? I need to talk to Evelyn. Are you going to tell her you love her? Maybe. We'll see. You should. She looks at you the way Mommy used to. Nathan's heart stopped. What do you mean? Like you're the best thing in the whole world, even when you're being grumpy. He didn't know what to say to that, so he just kissed the top of Mia's head and went to find Evelyn. She was in her office staring at her computer screen, not actually reading anything, just staring. Hey, Nathan said from the doorway. She looked up. Hey, can we talk? About the investigation or about you hanging up on me? Both. Neither. I don't know. Nathan walked in, closed the door behind him. Mia says you've been teaching her piano. Evelyn looked surprised. She told you? Yeah. Why didn't you mention it? Because it's not a big deal. She asked to learn. I know how to play. It's just something we do. It is a big deal. You're spending time with my daughter, building a relationship with her. That matters. I like spending time with her. She's easy to talk to, doesn't judge. Unlike everyone else? Unlike most people, yeah. Evelyn stood, walking over to the window. The investigator thinks I'm using you. Vincent thinks you're using me. The whole town probably thinks we're both insane. But Mia? She just accepts us. No questions. No judgment. She asked me if I love you. Evelyn turned sharply. What did you say? That I'm starting to. The words hung in the air between them, heavier than anything Nathan had ever said. Evelyn's eyes were bright. You don't mean that. I do. And it scares the hell out of me. Nathan, I know what we agreed. I know this was supposed to be temporary, but somewhere between the wedding and the ballroom and teaching my daughter piano, it stopped being fake. And I don't know how to unfake it. Evelyn crossed the room quickly, stopping right in front of him. I don't want to unfake it. What? I don't want this to be temporary anymore. I don't want to divorce you when the trust board approves the loan. I don't want you to leave when the estate is safe. Her voice cracked. I want this to be real. Nathan stared at her. You're serious. Completely, terrifyingly serious. Evelyn, we barely know each other. I know you wake up at 5 a.m. because you can't sleep. I know you check on Mia 3 times every night even though she's fine. I know you drink your coffee black because adding anything feels like wasting time. I know you blame yourself for Sarah's death even though cancer doesn't work that way. I know you're terrified of failing another person you love. She took a shaky breath. So maybe we don't know favorite colors or childhood stories, but I know the parts that matter. Nathan felt like he'd been hit. Everything she'd said was true. Things he'd never told her, things she'd just observed, learned from living beside him. This is crazy, he said. I know. We're supposed to be protecting ourselves, not falling for each other. Too late. Nathan laughed weakly. Yeah, too late. He kissed her then. Not for show. Not for investigators or town gossip or trust board meetings. Just because she was right. About all of it. Evelyn kissed him back like she'd been waiting her whole life for permission. Her hand slid into his hair, pulling him closer, and Nathan wrapped his arms around her waist like he could physically prevent her from leaving. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Nathan rested his forehead against hers. We're going to screw this up, he whispered. Probably. Vincent's going to use this against us. Let him try. Evelyn, I'm done being scared. Done making decisions based on what other people think or what makes financial sense. I want this. I want you. If that's stupid and reckless, fine. I'll be stupid and reckless. Nathan pulled back to look at her. What about when the money runs out? When the estate sells anyway? When reality hits and we realize we made promises we can't keep? Then we'll deal with it together. That's what actual married couples do, right? Face the disaster as a team. Is that what we are now? An actual married couple? Evelyn smiled. I think we have been for a while. We just weren't ready to admit it. Nathan kissed her again because he didn't have words for what he was feeling. Relief and terror and something dangerously close to hope. They were interrupted by Nathan's phone ringing. He ignored it. It rang again. You should get that, Evelyn said. Nathan pulled out his phone. Jenna, of course. Yeah? The trust board moved up their meeting, Jenna said without preamble. It's tomorrow, 9 a.m. They want you and Evelyn there to answer questions about the marriage. Nathan's stomach dropped. Tomorrow? It was supposed to be next week. Vincent pushed for an emergency session. Apparently Harrison delivered his preliminary report, and it raised enough red flags that they want immediate answers. What kind of red flags? The kind that suggest fraud. Nathan, you need to be prepared. They're going to grill you both, separately. If your stories don't match, they'll match. You sound pretty confident for someone who's been married less than 2 months. Nathan looked at Evelyn, who was watching him with worry in her eyes. I'm confident because it's real, he said. Whatever Vincent thinks he knows, whatever Harrison reported, it doesn't change the truth. Jenna was quiet for a moment. You actually love her, don't you? Yeah, I think I do. Then fight for it, both of you, because Vincent's not going to make this easy. After Nathan hung up, he told Evelyn about the meeting. She didn't panic, didn't cry, just nodded slowly and said, Okay, we knew this was coming. Tomorrow, though, that's not much time to prepare. We don't need time. We just need to tell the truth. And if the truth isn't enough, then we'll figure out plan B. She took his hands. Together. That night they sat up late going over everything. Their story, the timeline, the reasons why their marriage, despite its unconventional start, was legitimate. They prepared for every question, every accusation, every angle Vincent might use against them. But mostly they just talked about Sarah, about Evelyn's father, about the weight of trying to live up to legacies that felt too heavy to carry, about being scared and doing it anyway. Around 2 a.m., Evelyn fell asleep on the couch in Nathan's arms. He stayed awake watching her, this woman who'd sent him a desperate text in the middle of a thunderstorm and somehow become the most important person in his life. He was still awake when dawn broke gray and cold through the windows. The trust board meeting was scheduled for 9. At 8:30, Nathan, Evelyn, and a lawyer Evelyn had hired sat in the estate's formal sitting room going over last-minute strategy. They're going to try to separate you, the lawyer, a sharp woman named Catherine Morris, explained. Ask the same questions in different ways. Look for inconsistencies. We've been over this, Evelyn said. Our story hasn't changed. Good. Keep it that way. And remember, this isn't a trial. You're not obligated to answer anything that feels intrusive or inappropriate. I'll step in if they cross lines. At exactly 9 a.m., they entered the boardroom. The Hart Family Trust consisted of 5 members, 3 external financial advisors, the family lawyer, and Vincent. They sat on one side of a long mahogany table, looking like a jury. Vincent smiled when they entered. It didn't reach his eyes. Evelyn, Nathan, thank you for coming on such short notice. Like we had a choice, Nathan muttered. Catherine shot him a warning look. The head trustee, a woman in her 60s named Margaret Chen, opened a folder. We've reviewed Detective Harrison's preliminary findings regarding your marriage. There are some concerns we need to address before approving any loan modifications or asset restructuring. What concerns? Evelyn asked. Primarily, the timeline. You've been married less than 2 months. You've known each other for approximately 3 weeks before that. By any standard, this raises questions about the legitimacy of the relationship. People fall in love quickly sometimes, Nathan said. Do they? Or do people make strategic decisions that benefit them financially? If this was about money, I would have married someone rich. No offense, Evelyn. None taken. Vincent leaned forward. The issue isn't romance, it's fraud. You married my stepsister to help her access family trust assets. That's textbook manipulation. Catherine held up a hand. My client's married for personal reasons. The timing may be unconventional, but nothing about their relationship violates trust bylaws. Doesn't it? Vincent pulled out a document. According to the trust, any beneficiary entering into marriage within 6 months of requesting asset modification must prove the relationship existed prior to the request. Evelyn requested loan restructuring in September. She married Nathan in November. That's 2 months. Evelyn's face went pale. The relationship did exist before. We were seeing each other casually before the engagement. It was a lie. A desperate, obvious lie. Vincent smiled. Really? Then surely you can provide evidence, texts, photos, witnesses who saw you together. Silence. That's what I thought. Vincent sat back, triumphant. This marriage is fraudulent. It should be voided, and Evelyn should be barred from accessing trust assets. Margaret looked at Evelyn. Do you have any evidence supporting your claim that this relationship predates the loan request? Evelyn looked at Nathan. He could see the panic in her eyes. They had nothing. No proof, no witnesses, no way to prove their marriage was anything other than exactly what Vincent claimed it was. Nathan made a decision. The relationship didn't predate the loan request, he said. Catherine turned to him sharply. Nathan, I'm done lying. He looked directly at the board. Evelyn and I got married quickly. It was desperate and strategic and probably stupid. She needed help. I could provide it. That's how it started. Nathan, stop, Evelyn whispered. But somewhere between the courthouse and now, it became real. I fell in love with her, actually in love. Not because of the estate or the money or any strategic benefit, because she's brilliant and stubborn, and she cares about preserving something her father built, even when it would be easier to walk away. Because she's teaching my daughter piano. Because she looks at me like I'm worth something, even when I'm covered in dust from crawling around her basement. The room was silent. So yeah, Nathan continued, the marriage started as a practical arrangement, but it's not anymore. And if you want to void it because we didn't follow some arbitrary timeline, fine, do it. But you'll be destroying something real just to protect assets that are barely worth saving. Margaret studied him for a long moment. That's quite a speech, Mr. Cole. It's the truth. And you, Evelyn? Do you agree with this assessment? Evelyn's eyes were bright with unshed tears. Every word. Vincent stood abruptly. This is ridiculous. They're playing you, both of them. Sit down, Vincent, Margaret said calmly. But sit down. Vincent sat, jaw clenched. Margaret looked at her fellow trustees. Silent communication passed between them. Finally, she spoke. The board will take a 30-minute recess to discuss our findings. Please wait outside. They filed out into the hallway. The moment the door closed, Evelyn grabbed Nathan's arm. Why did you do that? Why did you tell them the truth? Because lying wasn't working, and because I meant what I said. He touched her face gently. I love you. Whatever happens in there, that's real. Tears spilled down her cheeks. I love you too. They kissed, not caring that Catherine was standing right there looking uncomfortable. The 30 minutes felt like hours. Finally, the board called them back in. Margaret's expression was unreadable. After careful consideration, she began, the board has decided to approve Evelyn's loan request. Nathan's heart jumped. Beside him, Evelyn grabbed his hand. However, Margaret continued, there are conditions. The marriage will be subject to annual review for the next 3 years. Any indication of fraud or dissolution will result in immediate loan recall. Additionally, all estate repairs must be overseen by an independent contractor to ensure trust funds are being used appropriately. That's insane, Vincent exploded. They just admitted the marriage was fraudulent. They admitted it started unconventionally, Margaret corrected. But after hearing their testimony and reviewing Detective Harrison's full report, which, I might add, Vincent, you clearly didn't read completely, there's substantial evidence this relationship has become legitimate. They live together. Mr. Cole has invested his own resources into the property. There's clear integration of family and financial responsibilities. She looked at Nathan and Evelyn. The board believes this marriage, while rushed, is genuine. Do you accept the conditions? Yes, Evelyn said immediately. Absolutely, Nathan agreed. Then we're finished here. The loan paperwork will be ready by end of week. They left the room in a daze. The moment they were out of earshot, Evelyn turned to Nathan and kissed him hard. We did it, she breathed. We actually did it. Yeah, we did. Catherine cleared her throat. I'll send you my bill. Congratulations on your real marriage. She left them alone in the hallway. Nathan pulled Evelyn close. You know what this means, right? We're stuck with each other for at least 3 years. Sounds terrible. The worst. Guess we'll just have to make the best of it. They were still standing there, wrapped around each other, when Vincent appeared. Enjoy your victory, he said coldly. But this isn't over. The estate's still failing. The gala's going to be a disaster. And when it all comes crashing down, don't expect me to save you. We don't need saving, Evelyn said quietly. Not from you. Not from anyone. Vincent stormed off. Nathan held Evelyn tighter. He's right about one thing. The gala's in 3 weeks and we still have a lot of work to do. Then we better get started. Together? Always together. They went home to their daughter and their crumbling estate and their impossible task. 2 people who'd started as strangers and become partners. Then something more. The hard part was just beginning. But for the first time in years, Nathan was ready to fight. 3 weeks until this gala. 21 days to pull off a miracle. Nathan stood in the ballroom at 6 in the morning, surveying the work still ahead. The structural reinforcements were done. The floor would hold 300 people without collapsing. But the room itself looked like a construction zone. Exposed beams, dust everywhere, scaffolding blocking half the dance floor. Coffee? He turned to find Evelyn in the doorway holding 2 mugs, wearing one of his old sweatshirts over her pajamas. Her hair was pulled back in a messy bun, and she had dark circles under her eyes. She'd never looked more beautiful. You're up early, Nathan said, accepting the coffee. Couldn't sleep, kept running numbers in my head. We're still $20,000 short on the catering deposit. I thought the loan came through. It did. But the bank's releasing funds in stages. First disbursement doesn't hit until after the gala, which means I need to cover everything up front and hope we make enough from ticket sales to break even. Nathan set down his coffee. How short are we total? With catering, music, decorations, staff, probably 60,000, maybe more. Jesus, Evelyn. I know, I'm working on it. There's a donor I can call, and if I sell some of my mother's jewelry... No. Nathan, you're not selling family heirlooms to pay for this. We'll figure something else out. Like what? We're running out of time and options. She walked into the ballroom, looking around at the unfinished space. Maybe Vincent was right. Maybe this is a disaster waiting to happen. Nathan crossed to her, turning her to face him. Hey, look at me. She did, reluctantly. We've gotten this far, he said. The loan's approved. The ballroom's structurally sound. You've got 150 confirmed guests. That's not nothing. It's not enough. Not yet. But we've got 3 weeks. A lot can happen in 3 weeks. Evelyn leaned her forehead against his chest. I'm scared. I know. What if I fail? What if I lose everything anyway? Then we'll deal with it, together. Remember? She pulled back to look at him. How are you so calm about this? I'm not. I'm terrified. But I learned a long time ago that panic doesn't fix problems. Work does. So what do we do? Nathan looked around the ballroom, calculating. We focus on what we can control. I'll get this room finished. You work on fundraising. We divide and conquer. That simple? That's simple. It wasn't simple. The next 2 weeks were brutal. Nathan worked 18-hour days finishing the ballroom while juggling his regular consulting jobs. The room slowly transformed. Scaffolding came down. Walls were repainted. The ancient chandelier was cleaned until it actually sparkled. Every night he fell into bed exhausted, barely able to move. Evelyn was on the phone constantly, calling in favors, begging donors, negotiating with vendors. She sold 2 pieces of jewelry Nathan told her not to, a bracelet her mother wore at her wedding and a necklace from her grandmother. It covered the catering deposit. Mia adjusted to the chaos with the resilience of children everywhere. She spent her days exploring the estate, playing piano, helping Evelyn stuff envelopes for gala invitations. More than once, Nathan found them together, heads bent over some task, talking quietly. His daughter was falling for Evelyn as hard as he had. That scared him almost as much as the gala. 1 week before the event, Nathan was installing the last light fixture when his phone rang. Unknown number. Nathan Cole. Mr. Cole, this is Preston Whitmore. Nathan nearly dropped the fixture. Preston. Evelyn's ex-fiancé. The man she'd left at the altar. What do you want? To talk about Evelyn. We have nothing to discuss. I think we do. I'm in town for business. Meet me for coffee. 1 hour. You pick the place. Why would I do that? Because I have information about Vincent's next move. And if you care about Evelyn at all, you'll want to hear it. The line went dead. Nathan stood there, phone in hand, debating. This could be a trap. Preston could be working with Vincent, but if there was even a chance he had real information... Nathan climbed down from the ladder and went to find Evelyn. She was in her office buried in spreadsheets, looking frazzled. Preston Whitmore just called me, Nathan said without preamble. Evelyn's head snapped up. What? He wants to meet. Says he has information about Vincent. It's a setup. Probably, but what if it's not? Nathan, Preston he's vindictive and manipulative, and he's probably trying to cause problems between us. Then I'll know pretty quick and I'll walk away. But if there's a chance Vincent's planning something, I'm coming with you. Evelyn, no arguments. If Preston wants to play games, he can do it with both of us. They met Preston at a diner on the edge of town. He was already there when they arrived, sitting in a corner booth, looking exactly like Nathan expected. Expensive suit, perfect hair, the kind of confident smile that came from never being told no. Preston stood when they approached. Evelyn, you look well. Cut the pleasantries, Preston. What do you want? He gestured to the booth. Please, sit. They sat across from him, Nathan staying close to Evelyn's side. Preston studied them for a moment. So this is real. The marriage. I honestly didn't believe it at first. Believe it, Nathan said flatly. Oh, I do now. The way you're looking at her, that's not acting. Preston's smile faded, which makes this conversation much more important. Get to the point, Evelyn said. Vincent's planning something for the gala, something that will humiliate you publicly and destroy any credibility you've built with the donors. What kind of something? He's going to pull the insurance on the ballroom, day of the event. Claims there's a safety violation that makes the space uninsurable. Without coverage, you can't legally host 300 people. The gala gets canceled, donors get angry, and you look incompetent. Nathan's blood went cold. How do you know this? Because Vincent approached me 3 days ago asking if I wanted to partner on a real estate deal. He's planning to force the estate into foreclosure after the gala fails, then buy it cheap and flip it. He wanted my investment capital. And you said no? Evelyn asked skeptically. I said I'd think about it, then I did some digging. Preston pulled out a folder and slid it across the table. This is Vincent's correspondence with the insurance company. He's been feeding them false information about structural problems, citing code violations that don't exist, building a case to cancel coverage. Nathan opened the folder, scanning the documents. It was all there. Emails, inspection reports, all fabricated. "Why are you telling us this?" Evelyn asked quietly. Preston looked at her. "Because what I did to you was wrong. Trying to leverage your desperation into ownership. That was cowardly. I justified it as business, but it was just greed." He paused. "I'm not a good man, Evelyn, but I'm trying to be better than I was. This is me trying." "You could have called, emailed. You didn't need to do this in person." "Yes, I did. Because I needed to see that you're okay. That you found someone who actually cares about you instead of what you're worth." He looked at Nathan. "Take care of her. She deserves that." "I intend to," Nathan said. Preston stood. "The insurance cancellation is scheduled for 9 a.m. on the 20th. You have until then to fix it. Good luck." He left before either of them could respond. Evelyn stared at the folder like it might explode. "Do you think he's telling the truth?" "Only one way to find out." They spent the rest of the day verifying Preston's information, called the insurance company, checked the inspection reports. Every document Preston provided was legitimate. Vincent really was trying to sabotage the gala. "We need to fix this before the 20th, Evelyn said that evening, pacing the kitchen. "If the insurance gets canceled, we're done. Then we get ahead of it. I'll pull my own inspection reports, document everything I've done to reinforce the structure. Prove Vincent's violations are fabricated." "Will that be enough?" "It has to be." Nathan spent the next 3 days compiling documentation. Every permit, every inspection, every structural modification he'd made to the ballroom. He photographed everything, wrote detailed reports, gathered statements from the contractors who'd helped with materials. By the 18th, he had a file 3 inches thick. "This is solid," Catherine Morse said, reviewing the documents. "If you present this to the insurance company before Vincent's complaint goes through, you should be able to block the cancellation." "Should?" Evelyn repeated. "Insurance companies are risk-averse. They might decide it's easier to cancel coverage than deal with a family dispute about structural integrity." "So what do we do?" "You personally deliver this to their office. Tomorrow. Get it on record before Vincent can act." The insurance company's regional office was 2 hours away in Hartford. Nathan drove, Evelyn beside him, clutching the documentation like a lifeline. "What if this doesn't work?" she asked as they pulled into the parking lot. "Then we cancel the gala ourselves, on our terms. No public humiliation." "Nathan, we can't cancel. We need this money. We need it. But we don't need to destroy ourselves getting it." He took her hand. "If this falls apart, we figure out Plan B. There's always a Plan B." The meeting with the insurance adjuster lasted 90 minutes. Nathan walked through every structural modification, every safety measure, every code compliance. Evelyn provided financial documentation showing the estate was current on premiums. The adjuster, a tired-looking woman named Sandra, reviewed everything carefully. "Mr. Hart's complaint alleges multiple code violations," she said, "but none of these documents show evidence of that." "Because the violations don't exist," Nathan said. "Vincent's trying to manipulate you into canceling coverage to sabotage a family event." "Can you prove that's his motivation?" Nathan pulled out the last document, Preston's folder showing Vincent's real estate plans. Sandra read it, expression darkening. "This is a copy of internal correspondence from Vincent Hart discussing purchasing the estate after a foreclosure. How did you obtain this?" "Someone who didn't want to see fraud happen," Evelyn said carefully. Sandra set down the papers. "I need to consult with my supervisor. This is beyond my authority." "How long will that take?" "Give me an hour." They waited in the lobby, both too nervous to talk. Nathan checked his phone compulsively. Evelyn stared at nothing. Finally, Sandra returned. "Coverage will remain active," she said. "We're flagging Vincent Hart's complaint as potentially fraudulent and opening an investigation into whether he violated insurance fraud statutes. Your event on the 20th is fully covered." Relief hit Nathan like a physical force. Beside him, Evelyn started crying. "Thank you," she managed. "Thank you so much." They left the building in a daze, climbed into the truck, and just sat there. "We did it," Evelyn said. "Yeah. The gala's actually going to happen." "Looks like it." She started laughing, not hysterical, just pure exhausted relief. Nathan laughed too, and then they were both laughing in the parking lot of an insurance office in Hartford, holding on to each other like survivors of a shipwreck. "I love you," Evelyn said suddenly, still laughing. "I love you too. Even though I'm a disaster?" "Especially because of that." She kissed him hard, tasting like coffee and tears and victory. They drove home with the windows down despite the December cold, both of them giddy with the realization that they might actually pull this off. Vincent called that evening. Evelyn put him on speaker so Nathan could hear. "I assume you heard about the insurance situation," Vincent said coldly. "We did. Funny how your complaint got flagged as fraud. You can't prove anything." "Actually, we can. And we did. The insurance company's investigating you now. Might want to call your lawyer." Silence. Then, "You're making a mistake, Evelyn. This gala is going to fail, and when it does, it won't. We've got this handled." "Do you?" "Because I've been doing math. You're still $30,000 short on expenses. Where's that money coming from?" Evelyn's face went pale. Nathan grabbed the phone. "That's none of your business." "Oh, it absolutely is. Because when this event collapses financially, the trust board is going to want to know where estate funds went. And I'll be right there with receipts showing Evelyn mismanaged everything." He hung up. Evelyn sank into a chair. "He's right. We're still short. Even with ticket sales, we're not going to break even." Nathan did the math in his head. She was right. They'd covered the major expenses, but incidentals kept piling up. Staff, decorations, last-minute vendor fees, they were hemorrhaging money. "How much do you have left in savings?" he asked. "After the jewelry, maybe 8,000. And I've got about 12. That's 20 total." "Still 10,000 short." Nathan pulled out his phone, scrolled through his contacts, and made a call he'd been avoiding. "Jenna, I need a favor." "How big?" $10,000. Silence. Then, "Nathan, I don't have that kind of money." "I know, but you have access to Mom's estate. The money she left us that we've been holding for emergencies. That's your inheritance, both of ours. We agreed not to touch it. This is an emergency." "Is it? Or is this you bankrupting yourself for someone else again?" "Jenna, Isama." "No, listen to me. I love you. I support you. But this is insane. You've already put $40,000 of your own money into that estate. You sold your truck. You're working yourself into an early grave. How much more are you willing to lose?" Nathan looked at Evelyn, who was watching him with devastated eyes. "All of it," he said quietly. "I'm willing to lose all of it if it means she doesn't lose everything." Jenna sighed heavily. "You're an idiot." "I know. Fine. I'll wire you the money. But Nathan, when this is over, we're having a serious conversation about your self-destructive tendencies." "Deal. Thank you, Jenna." After he hung up, Evelyn was staring at him. "You sold your truck?" 2 weeks ago. Needed cash for materials." "Nathan, don't. It was just a truck." "It was your truck. You've had it since before Mia was born. And now I have a wife who needs help keeping her family legacy alive. Priorities shift." Evelyn crossed to him, taking his face in her hands. No one's ever sacrificed like this for me." "Then you were around the wrong people." "Apparently." She kissed him soft and slow, pouring everything she couldn't say into the contact. When they pulled apart, Nathan rested his forehead against hers. "We're going to make this work," he said. "Promise?" "Promise." The morning of December 20th dawned clear and cold. Nathan woke at 5, pulse racing. Today was it. Everything they'd worked for came down to the next 12 hours. He found Evelyn already awake, standing at the window in their bedroom, his bedroom technically, though she'd been sleeping there for the past week, watching the sunrise. "Couldn't sleep either," he asked. "Too nervous." She turned to him. "What if something goes wrong?" "Then we handle it. We've gotten pretty good at crisis management." She smiled slightly. "We really have, haven't we?" "Yeah, we have." The estate transformed throughout the morning. Caterers arrived at 8, filling the kitchen with the smell of roasted vegetables and fresh bread. The florist delivered centerpieces at 9, winter white roses and evergreen branches. The string quartet showed up at 10 to do sound checks. By noon, the ballroom looked like something out of a fairy tale. Nathan stood in the doorway, taking it all in. The chandelier sparkled, the floors gleamed, White linens covered tables arranged around a dance floor that had been reinforced to hold an army. Candles waited to be lit. Music stands stood ready. It was beautiful. Actually beautiful. Not bad for a death trap, Evelyn said, appearing beside him. Not bad at all. She was already dressed for the gala, a dark green gown that made her look like expensive trouble. Her hair was up, makeup perfect, the Hart family diamonds at her throat. Nathan was still in jeans and a work shirt, covered in dust from doing final checks. "You clean up nice," he said. "You look like you crawled out of a construction site." "Accurate assessment." "Go get ready. Guests arrive in 2 hours." Nathan showered and put on the suit he'd bought specifically for tonight. Nothing fancy, but it fit well and made him look like someone who belonged at a black tie gala. He was adjusting his tie when Mia appeared in the doorway. "Daddy, you look handsome." "Thanks, kiddo. You look pretty fancy yourself." Jenna had taken Mia shopping, and his daughter now wore a navy blue dress with her hair in braids. She looked so grown up it physically hurt. "Is Evelyn going to be okay tonight?" Mia asked. "What do you mean?" "She seems scared, like she's worried something bad will happen." Nathan knelt down to Mia's level. "She's just nervous. This is a really important night for her." "Are you nervous too?" "Yeah, a little bit." "Don't be. You fixed the ballroom. It's going to be perfect." Nathan hugged his daughter tight. "When did you get so smart?" "I've always been smart. You just notice sometimes." He laughed, kissed the top of her head, and went to find Evelyn. She was in her office staring at a seating chart like it might attack her. 2 hours, she said without looking up. 2 hours, and we'll know if this was brilliant or catastrophic. "It's going to be brilliant. You don't know that." "I know you, and you don't fail when it matters." She finally looked at him. "I'm terrified." "Good. Means you care." Nathan pulled her to her feet. "Come on. Let's go see what we built." They walked through the estate together, checking last-minute details. The kitchen hummed with activity. The coat check was ready. The bar was stocked. Outside, valets prepared for the arrival of expensive cars. Everything was in place. At exactly 6 p.m., the first guests arrived. Nathan watched from the entrance as Briarglen's elite filed in. Women in designer gowns, men in tailored tuxedos, everyone dripping wealth and judgment. They handed over coats, accepted champagne flutes, and migrated toward the ballroom with the predatory grace of people who'd spent their lives at events like this. Evelyn stood at the ballroom entrance greeting each person personally. She was flawless, gracious, charming, remembering names and details like she'd been preparing for this her entire life. Which, Nathan realized, she had been. By 7, 280 people packed the ballroom. The string quartet played something classical Nathan didn't recognize. Servers circulated with appetizers. The chandeliers created halos of light across the dance floor. It looked like the Hart Estate's golden age brought back to life. Nathan found a quiet corner and just watched. Watched Evelyn work the room, shaking hands and making small talk. Watched the donors actually smile. Watched the estate's legacy shimmer back into existence. Impressive, isn't it? He turned to find Vincent standing beside him, holding a glass of scotch. "What are you doing here?" Nathan asked. "I'm family. I was invited." Vincent gestured at the room. "I'll admit I didn't think you'd pull this off. The ballroom looks good. Better than good." "Thanks." "Don't thank me. I'm not complimenting you. I'm observing." Vincent took a drink. "This doesn't change anything. The estate's still failing. One successful party doesn't erase years of mismanagement." "Maybe not. But it's a start. Is it? Or is it just delaying the inevitable?" Vincent looked at him. "You really love her, don't you?" "Yeah, I do." "Then you're a fool. Evelyn's married to this place, not to you. When you finally figure that out, don't say I didn't warn you." He walked away before Nathan could respond. The comment lodged under Nathan's skin like a splinter. Was Vincent right? Was Evelyn more committed to the estate than their marriage? Would she choose the building over him if it came down to it? He was still thinking about it when Mia found him. "Daddy, Evelyn wants you." Nathan followed his daughter to the center of the ballroom, where Evelyn stood waiting with a microphone. The room quieted as she cleared her throat. "Thank you all for coming tonight," Evelyn began. "This estate has been in my family for 90 years. It's hosted presidents and performers. It's seen celebrations and heartbreak, and for the past few years, it's been dying." The room was silent. But tonight, we're bringing it back to life. Not just the building, the spirit of what the Hart family has always represented: community, legacy, the belief that some things are worth preserving even when it's hard. She looked directly at Nathan. I couldn't have done this alone. My husband Nathan took a crumbling ballroom and made it safe, made it beautiful. He believed in this place when I was ready to give up. So this evening isn't just about the estate. It's about partnership, about what we can accomplish when we stop fighting alone. Applause filled the ballroom. Evelyn held out her hand. Dance with me? Nathan crossed to her, very aware that 300 people were watching. He took her hand and the quartet started playing something slow and elegant. They moved together across the floor they'd rebuilt, and Nathan forgot about Vincent's warning, forgot about the money and the stress and the impossibility of everything they'd accomplished. Thank you, Evelyn whispered against his ear. For what? For showing up, for staying, for making me believe this was possible. Nathan pulled back to look at her. You made it possible. I just helped. No, we did it together. They finished the dance to enthusiastic applause. Other couples joined them on the floor. The party shifted into full celebration mode, music and laughter and the clink of champagne glasses. By 9 p.m., Evelyn's assistant approached with an envelope. The donation totals, she said, handing it over. Evelyn opened it, scanned the number inside, and went completely still. How much? Nathan asked quietly. $420,000. Nathan's brain stuttered. That's more than we needed. I know. Evelyn stared at the number like she couldn't quite process it. We did it. We actually did it. Yeah, we did. She threw her arms around him, laughing and crying at the same time, and Nathan held her tight in the middle of the ballroom they'd saved together. The celebration lasted until midnight. By the time the last guest left, Nathan's feet hurt, and his face hurt from smiling, and he'd never been more exhausted in his life. But they'd done it. The estate was saved. He found Evelyn in the empty ballroom afterward, sitting on the floor in her gown, shoes kicked off, looking at the space like she still couldn't believe it was real. Nathan sat down beside her. Hell of a night, he said. Yeah. You okay? I think so. Still processing. She looked at him. We saved it, the estate, my father's legacy, everything. We did. I don't know how to thank you. You don't have to. Evelyn leaned her head on his shoulder. What happens now? Now we figure out how to actually run this place. Turn it back into a functioning business. Maybe host more events, weddings, conferences. Whatever keeps the lights on. That sounds exhausting. Probably will be. Are you up for it? Nathan thought about the question, about the months of chaos that had brought them here, about falling in love with someone while pretending to be married and discovering it was real. Yeah, he said. I'm up for it. They sat there in the quiet ballroom, two people who'd started as strangers and become something neither of them had names for yet. Outside, snow started falling again, coating the estate in white, making everything look clean and new and possible. The morning after the gala, Nathan woke to find Evelyn's side of the bed empty. He found her in the ballroom at dawn, still wearing last night's gown, walking barefoot across the floor they'd rebuilt together. She looked like a ghost haunting her own success. Couldn't sleep? Nathan asked from the doorway. She turned, startled. I keep expecting to wake up and find out it was a dream, that we didn't actually raise $400,000, that the estate's still dying. It's real, all of it. I know, that's what scares me. She wrapped her arms around herself. What happens now? We saved the building. The immediate crisis is over, so where does that leave us? Nathan understood what she was really asking. Their marriage had been built on emergency, on desperation and deadlines and constant crisis. Now that the storm had passed, what was left? I don't know, he admitted, but I'd like to find out. Evelyn crossed to him slowly. Nathan, I need to tell you something. His stomach tightened. Okay. When we got married, I told myself it was temporary, a business arrangement that would end when I didn't need you anymore. I convinced myself I could keep my heart out of it. Her voice cracked. But I can't. I tried. I failed spectacularly. Evelyn, I'm in love with you. Actually, completely, terrifyingly in love with you. And I don't want this to be temporary anymore. I don't want you to leave when the crisis ends. I want She stopped, looking vulnerable in a way he'd never seen. I want this to be real. Forever real. Not just legally real. Nathan felt something loosen in his chest, relief and fear and hope all tangled together. You think I'm planning to leave? He asked. Aren't you? We agreed this was temporary. 6 months, maybe a year. The estate's saved now. You've fulfilled your part of the deal. Evelyn, I stopped thinking of this as a deal the night I kissed you in the rain. Nathan closed the distance between them. I'm not going anywhere, not unless you want me to. I don't. I really don't. He kissed her then, soft and sure, tasting salt from tears he hadn't realized she was crying. When they pulled apart, Evelyn laughed shakily. So what now? We just stay married? Keep living here? Raise Mia together? Yeah, if that's what you want. It is. But Nathan, I need you to understand something. She took his hands. This place, the estate, it's always going to be part of my life, part of who I am. I can't just walk away from it. I'm not asking you to. But what if it becomes too much? What if trying to save this building costs us everything we've built together? Nathan had been thinking about this since Vincent's warning at the gala, about whether Evelyn would choose the estate over him if forced to decide. But standing here now, seeing the fear in her eyes, he realized the question was wrong. It's not the estate or us, he said. It's both. This place is part of you. Mia's part of me. We don't get to separate the pieces we love from the complicated parts. We take it all or we take nothing. That's a lot to take on. I know. But I'm not scared of complicated anymore. I'm scared of losing you. Evelyn buried her face in his chest. How are you real? I'm not. I'm a mess who rebuilds buildings because I couldn't save my wife. I work too much, and I don't talk about my feelings, and I have no idea how to be a good husband because I'm making it up as I go. You're doing pretty well so far. Am I? Because most days I feel like I'm one bad decision away from screwing this up. She pulled back to look at him. That's the thing, though. You keep showing up anyway, scared and uncertain and completely out of your depth, and you do it anyway. That's what makes you good at this. At what? At loving people. At being there. At not running when things get hard. Nathan thought about Sarah, about the years of watching her die and being helpless to stop it, about the guilt that still woke him up some nights wondering if he could have done more. I ran after Sarah died, he said quietly. I ran so far into work and numbness that I almost lost Mia too. If it wasn't for Jenna, but you came back. You chose to come back. That's what matters. Did I? Or did I just find a new crisis to lose myself in? Evelyn framed his face with her hands. Nathan Cole, listen to me. You're not a project. You are not broken. And you did not marry me because you needed saving or needed to save someone. You married me because I asked you to, and you stayed because we fell in love. Stop making it more complicated than that. When did you get so wise? About 3 minutes ago. I'm winging it. He laughed and she laughed, and they stood there in the quiet ballroom as morning light filtered through the tall windows. So we're doing this, Nathan said. Actually doing this. Looks like it. No more pretending it's temporary. No more pretending. We should probably tell people. Make it official. Evelyn smiled. I think people already know. Jenna cornered me last night and said if I broke your heart, she'd make my life hell. That sounds like her. She also said she's never seen you this happy. Not even before Sarah got sick. Nathan felt his throat tighten. I didn't think I could be. This happy. After everything. Me neither. Turns out we were both wrong. They stood there holding each other, two people who'd started as strangers and discovered something neither of them had been looking for. The spell broke when Mia's voice echoed through the house. Dad! Evelyn! Are you awake? I'm hungry! Nathan pulled back with a smile. Duty calls. Welcome to forever, Evelyn said. Yeah, welcome to forever. They found Mia in the kitchen making a disaster of breakfast. Cereal everywhere, milk dripping off the counter. She looked up guiltily when they entered. I was trying to make breakfast myself so you could sleep. That's very sweet, Evelyn said, grabbing paper towels. And very messy. Sorry. Don't be. Messes happen. She started cleaning while Nathan got Mia situated with actual food. The three of them moved around the kitchen with the easy choreography of people who'd learned to exist together. This was it, Nathan realized. This was the life they were choosing. Not perfect, not uncomplicated, just real and messy and theirs. After breakfast, Mia looked between them seriously. "Are you guys going to stay married forever now?" she asked. Nathan glanced at Evelyn, who nodded slightly. "Yeah, kiddo, I think we are." "Good, because I like living here, and I like Evelyn." She paused. "Can I call you Mom?" The question hung in the air like a held breath. Evelyn's eyes filled with tears. "You want to call me Mom?" "If that's okay. I know I had a mom before, but she's gone now. And you're here, and you're nice to me, and you teach me piano, and you don't treat me like I'm a baby." Nathan watched Evelyn struggle for composure. She knelt down to Mia's level, voice shaking. "I would be honored if you called me Mom." Mia hugged her hard. "Okay, thanks, Mom." And just like that, they became a family. Not through crisis or legal paperwork, but through a 6-year-old deciding it was time. The next few weeks settled into something almost normal. Nathan officially closed his consulting office and moved his entire operation to the estate. Evelyn hired staff to manage daily operations: a house manager, maintenance crew, event coordinator. They started booking the ballroom for weddings and corporate events. The estate slowly transformed from a burden into a business. Vincent challenged the trust board's decision one more time, claiming the marriage was still fraudulent despite all evidence. The board shut him down completely and removed him from any decision-making authority regarding estate assets. He disappeared after that, probably to scheme somewhere else. Preston sent flowers with a note. "Congratulations on choosing better than I deserved. P." Evelyn put them in the ballroom with a smile. One night in February, Nathan was doing paperwork in his office when Evelyn appeared in the doorway. "I need to show you something," she said. She led him to the estate's study, her father's old office, which had been locked since his death. Evelyn opened it now, revealing a room frozen in time. Mahogany desk, leather chairs, walls lined with books and family photos. "I couldn't come in here after he died," Evelyn said quietly. "Too painful. But I think it's time." She walked to the desk and pulled out a leather journal. "My father kept records, not just financial, personal. Thoughts about running the estate, about family, about me." She opened to a page marked with a ribbon and handed it to Nathan. The entry was dated 3 months before her father's death. "Evelyn carries too much. I see her trying to hold this place together with sheer will, and I'm proud and heartbroken in equal measure. She thinks she needs to do it alone because that's what I taught her. My greatest failure as a father, making her believe asking for help is weakness. If she finds someone who makes her stronger instead of smaller, I hope she's brave enough to let them in. The estate will only matter if she's happy. Buildings can be rebuilt, family can't." Nathan looked up to find Evelyn crying quietly. "I spent years thinking I had to carry this alone," she said. "That asking for help meant I'd failed him, but he never wanted that. He wanted me to find someone who made the burden lighter." "You didn't find me. You sent a desperate text to a guy you barely knew." "Best decision I ever made." Nathan set down the journal and pulled her close. "You know what I think?" "What?" "I think your father would be proud. Not because you saved the building, because you saved yourself." Evelyn cried harder, and Nathan just held her, letting her grieve the father she'd lost and the expectations she'd finally let go of. When she pulled back, she wiped her eyes. "I want to do something. Something that honors what this place was supposed to be." "Like what?" "My father used to offer the estate free of charge for community events, school fundraisers, charity galas, things that mattered but couldn't afford fancy venues. Vincent stopped all that when he took over management, said it wasn't profitable." She looked at Nathan. "I want to start doing it again. Make the estate about more than just money. That's going to cut into revenue." "I know, but some things are worth more than profit." Nathan smiled. "Then let's do it." They started small. A fundraiser for the local hospital, a scholarship dinner for Mia's school, a wedding for a young couple who couldn't afford anything fancy but deserved something beautiful. Word spread. The Hart Estate became known not just as a venue, but as a place that cared about community. Bookings increased. Revenue stabilized. The building that had nearly bankrupted Evelyn started thriving. In May, the trust board held its annual review. Nathan and Evelyn sat across from Margaret Chen, now the sole trustee overseeing estate operations after the board restructuring that had removed Vincent's influence. "I have to admit," Margaret said, reviewing their financial reports, "I didn't think you'd make it. The odds were against you." "We had help," Evelyn said, squeezing Nathan's hand under the table. "Clearly. The estate's finances are the healthiest they've been in a decade. You're booked solid through September, community engagement is up, and your marriage—" She smiled. "Well, I think we can safely say that's legitimate." "Does that mean no more annual reviews?" Nathan asked. "It means you've proven yourselves. The 3-year monitoring requirement is suspended. Congratulations." After the meeting, they walked through the estate gardens, watching spring slowly reclaim the grounds. "We did it," Evelyn said. "Actually, completely did it. Yeah, we did." "So what now?" Nathan thought about the question. About all the crises they'd survived and all the quiet moments in between. About watching Mia grow up in this house. About falling asleep next to Evelyn every night and waking up knowing she'd still be there. "Now we live," he said. "We run this place. We raise Mia. We figure out how to be married without the emergency holding us together." "That sounds terrifying." "Little bit. But good terrifying. The best kind." They sat on a bench overlooking the gardens, watching the estate come back to life around them. "Can I tell you something?" Evelyn asked. "Always." "The night I sent you that text, when I was standing in the rain in that wedding dress, I wasn't thinking about the estate. I wasn't thinking about money or the trust or any of it." "What were you thinking about?" "That I'd rather risk everything on someone I barely knew than spend my life with someone who made me feel small. It wasn't logical, it wasn't smart, but it was the first time in years I'd chosen what I wanted instead of what I should want." Nathan pulled her closer. "And what did you want?" "Someone who saw me. Actually saw me. Not the business or the legacy or the debt. Just me." She looked up at him. "You did that. From the first day. You looked at me like I mattered more than what I could give you." "You do matter more. I know that now, but I didn't then." She paused. "Thank you for coming to get me that night. For saying yes when I asked something impossible. For staying when you could have left." "Where else would I go? You're my home now. You and Mia and this ridiculous house." "It is pretty ridiculous. Absolutely absurd. But it's ours." "Yeah, it's ours." They sat there as the sun set over the estate, two people who'd been drowning separately and learned to swim together. That evening, Nathan was tucking Mia into bed when she asked the question he'd been dreading. "Dad, do you still miss Mom, the first Mom?" Nathan sat on the edge of her bed carefully. "Yeah, kiddo, I do. Some days more than others." "Is it okay that I don't remember her very much?" His heart broke a little. "Of course it's okay. You were really young when she died. I remember she smelled like flowers, and she sang songs that were kind of off-key, and she made you laugh a lot. She did make me laugh. Your mom was funny, brave too. She would have liked you, the person you're becoming. Do you think she would have liked Evelyn?" Nathan thought about Sarah, fierce and practical and completely uninterested in pretense. Would she have liked Evelyn, the woman who'd accidentally become his second chance at happiness? "I think she would have respected her," Nathan said finally. "Your first mom believed in fighting for things that mattered. Evelyn does that. She fights for this place, for our family, for what's right. Yeah, I think they would have gotten along." "Good." Mia snuggled into her pillow. "I like having two moms, even if one is just in my heart now." Nathan kissed her forehead, throat tight. "Get some sleep, sweetheart." "Dad?" "Yeah?" "I'm glad you're happy again. You were sad for a really long time." "I know I was. I'm sorry you had to see that." "It's okay. You're better now." After Mia fell asleep, Nathan found Evelyn in their bedroom. She was standing at the window looking out at the estate grounds, wearing one of his old t-shirts. "Mia asked about Sarah," he said. Evelyn turned. "What did you tell her?" "The truth, that I still miss her, that she'd be proud of who Mia's becoming." "And about us?" "That I think Sarah would have liked you." Evelyn smiled sadly. "You don't have to say that to make me feel better." "I'm not." Sarah was practical. She would have seen that you make me happy, that you're good for Mia, that we're building something real here. She would have approved. How do you know? Because she told me once, toward the end. She said when she was gone, she wanted me to find someone who made me want to live again instead of just exist. Nathan crossed to Evelyn. That's you. You make me want to live. She kissed him soft and slow. You do the same for me. They stood there holding each other, and Nathan thought about all the ways life breaks you open and puts you back together differently. How loss and love aren't opposites, they're companions. How you can honor what was while building what is. He'd loved Sarah, would always love her. But that didn't make what he felt for Evelyn less real. If anything, it made it more precious, because he knew how quickly it could disappear. In June, Evelyn made an announcement over breakfast. I want to transfer half ownership of the estate to you, legally. Nathan nearly choked on his coffee. What? I've been thinking about this since the gala. You've put everything into this place, your money, your time, your expertise. You shouldn't be just my husband living here. You should be an actual partner, equal stake, equal say. Evelyn, I don't want your family's estate. It's not about want. It's about fair. And it's not just my family's estate anymore. It's ours. Mia should inherit this place equally from both of us, not just from me. Nathan set down his coffee carefully. Are you sure about this? Completely. I already talked to Catherine. She's drawing up the paperwork. What does the trust board say? That it's my decision as primary beneficiary. They don't have jurisdiction over how I divide ownership. Nathan looked at this woman who'd become his wife, his partner, his home. She was offering him half of everything her family had built. Not because she had to, because she wanted to. Okay, he said finally, but on one condition. What? We set up a proper trust for Mia. Make sure she's protected if anything happens to either of us. This place should be hers someday. Evelyn smiled. Already done. Catherine included it in the paperwork. You've really thought this through. I've thought about nothing else for weeks. This is right, Nathan, for all of us. The transfer happened quietly in Catherine's office on a Tuesday afternoon. Nathan signed papers making him legal co-owner of the Hart estate, equal partner in every sense. Walking out of that office, he felt the weight of it, responsibility, legacy, the knowledge that he now carried part of Evelyn's family history on his shoulders. You okay? Evelyn asked, noticing his silence. Just processing. I went from renting a house to co-owning a 90-year-old mansion in less than a year. Having regrets? No, just aware of how much my life has changed. Mine too. She took his hand. But good change, right? The best kind. They drove back to the estate together, and Nathan thought about the journey that had brought them here. From that desperate text in the rain to this moment of absolute partnership. Life had a strange way of working out. In August, they hosted their first wedding as equal partners. The couple was young, mid-20s, and completely broke. The bride's father had worked maintenance at the estate years ago before he died. When they'd called asking about rates, Evelyn had offered them the venue free of charge. My father would have wanted this, she'd said. He believed the estate should serve people, not just profit. Nathan had helped with setup personally, made sure every detail was perfect. Because that's what family did for family, and this place was family now. The wedding was simple and beautiful. The couple cried through their vows, their guests danced in the ballroom Nathan had rebuilt, and when it was over, the bride hugged Evelyn hard. Thank you for this, for making our day possible. We'll never forget it. After everyone left, Nathan found Evelyn in the empty ballroom again. She seemed to gravitate there during emotional moments. You did a good thing today, he said. We did a good thing. This is ours now, remember? How could I forget? My name's on the deed. She laughed, but it was watery. My father used to host weddings for free all the time, for people who couldn't afford it but deserved something special. I'd forgotten that until I found his journals. He'd be proud of you, continuing that tradition. I hope so. Some days I still feel like I'm disappointing him, like I didn't live up to what he wanted. Nathan pulled her close. You saved his legacy. You're honoring his values. You're raising a family in this house. What more could he have wanted? For me to be happy, probably. Are you? Happy? Evelyn looked up at him. Yeah, weirdly, completely, unexpectedly happy, despite everything, because of everything. Me too. Even though you married a stranger who dragged you into financial chaos, especially because of that. She kissed him there in the ballroom, under the chandelier they'd cleaned together, on the floor they'd reinforced as a team. I love you, Evelyn said. Not because you saved me, not because you saved this place, just because you're you. I love you too, even when you're stubborn and terrifying and making impossible decisions. Especially then. September brought the first anniversary of their courthouse wedding. Neither of them had planned anything special. They'd been too busy with estate management and Mia's school starting and the endless tasks of running a historic property. But the morning of their anniversary, Nathan woke to find Evelyn already awake, watching him. Happy anniversary, she said. Has it really been a year? Legally, yes. Feels longer. Is that a complaint? No, just an observation. A lot has happened in 12 months. Nathan thought about everything they'd survived. The trust investigation. The gala. Vincent's sabotage. The slow transformation from strangers to partners to something neither of them had words for. Yeah, he agreed. A lot. We should do something. Celebrate. Like what? I don't know. Something normal? Dinner? A movie? Whatever married couples do on anniversaries. We could just stay here, order takeout, spend the evening together. Evelyn smiled. That sounds perfect. They spent the day working, Nathan fixing a leaky pipe in the East Wing, Evelyn meeting with potential clients for a corporate event. Normal, boring, domestic. That evening, they ordered Chinese food and ate on the floor of their bedroom like teenagers. Mia was at Jenna's for a sleepover, giving them rare privacy. Can I ask you something? Evelyn said, picking at her lo mein. Always. Do you ever regret it? Marrying me, taking this on. Nathan set down his food. Where's this coming from? I've just been thinking about what your life would look like if I hadn't sent that text. You'd probably still be in your rental, running your consulting business without the stress of this place, dating someone normal who didn't come with a crumbling estate and family drama. You're right. I probably would be. Evelyn flinched. But I'd also be lonely, Nathan continued, working too much, coming home to an empty house, going through motions instead of actually living. That text you sent? It woke me up, reminded me I was still alive, still capable of feeling something. Even when the something was panic? Even then. At least panic meant I cared about something beyond just surviving. He took her hand. I don't regret a single thing. Not the chaos, not the money, not the sleepless nights, because all of it brought me here. To you, to us, to this completely insane life we've built. It is pretty insane. The best kind of insane. Evelyn leaned against him. I used to think happiness was something other people had, that I was supposed to sacrifice and struggle and carry burdens alone. That's what being a heart meant. And now? Now I think happiness is choosing to let someone carry the burden with you, even when you're scared, even when it doesn't make sense. That's very wise. I'm learning from you. They sat there on the bedroom floor surrounded by takeout containers, and Nathan thought about how much had changed in a year, how they'd gone from legal strangers to actual partners, how Mia had gained a mother, how he'd gained a home. Thank you, he said quietly. For what? For sending that text, for trusting me when you had no reason to, for letting me in. Thank you for coming to get me, for saying yes to something impossible, for staying. They kissed slow and gentle, tasting like soy sauce and promise. Later that night, lying in bed with Evelyn asleep beside him, Nathan thought about Sarah, about the life they'd planned that cancer had stolen, about the guilt he'd carried for surviving when she hadn't. He still missed her, still loved her, but the grief had changed shape. It wasn't the drowning weight it used to be. It was softer now, bittersweet instead of devastating. Sarah was part of his story, always would be, but she wasn't the whole story anymore. Evelyn shifted in her sleep, moving closer. Nathan wrapped his arm around her, feeling her warmth, her reality, her presence. This was his life now. This woman, this child, this impossible house. Not what he'd planned, not what he'd expected. But maybe that was the point. Maybe the best things in life were the ones you didn't plan for, the ones that found you in the middle of a thunderstorm and asked the impossible. And maybe happiness wasn't about having everything figured out. It was about finding someone willing to figure it out with you. Nathan closed his eyes and let himself feel grateful for second chances, for desperate text, for women brave enough to run from the wrong wedding and smart enough to ask for help, for all the ways life breaks you and puts you back together differently, for love that shows up when you need it most, even if you didn't know you were looking. He fell asleep holding Evelyn close, snow starting to fall outside, the first of the season, covering everything in white, clean, new, full of possibility, just like them. The estate stood solid against the winter night, its windows glowing warm, its ballroom waiting for the next celebration. A building saved, a legacy honored, a family built from strangers who became something more. And in the morning, they'd wake up and do it all again. Together. Always together. Because that's what partnership meant, what marriage meant, what love meant when you stripped away all the performance and pretense and fear. Two people choosing each other every single day, through crisis and calm, through disaster and domesticity. Choosing to stay, choosing to fight, choosing to build something real out of something that started as survival. Nathan had learned something in this year of chaos. You can't plan for love. You can't schedule it or strategize it or make it make sense. Sometimes it just shows up in a wedding dress in the middle of a rainstorm and asks if you're willing to risk everything. And sometimes, if you're very lucky and very brave, you say yes. You drive into the storm. You show up. You stay. And somewhere between the crisis and the calm, between the pretending and the truth, you discover that the impossible thing you agreed to has become the most real thing in your life. That's what Nathan had found with Evelyn. Not perfection, not easy, not uncomplicated, just real, messy, worth fighting for. And in the end, that was more than enough. It was everything.